Go. Boop. All right. I'm here, and you say something?
Bada bing, bada boom.
Bada bing, bada boom. Welcome to the return of Coffee and Chat, the show where Lev, in theory, is not meant to be drinking, but, well, I have something else planned for this evening on stream that requires me to drink, so something happened. Let's just say that I took the opportunity and ran with it. But normally, your boy is drinking coffee and not too engaged in his own opinions because we have a guest. The one and only Ignar Husky is here. Hi, Ignar. Been a
Oh,
while.
what to do? Hell yeah.
And
And also, I think we're gonna have a fun little bit of history knowledge for today too. And also, is it like the
fun.
first step, like come back with the show too? I was looking at the link and it said episode 1. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, it's been a hot minute. I used to have a show called Coffee and Chat. I think I got about 8 episodes in, and then I ended it. But I kept all the overlays. So yeah, screw it. Um, why not? I've got I have more time than ever before, so screw it. Yeah. Um,
Okay.
now, just a quick heads up before we begin. Uh, this will not be a proof of concept of the normal shows that we will have because, well, I've been drinking and I will continue to drink. So I'm hoping it to be a higher brow. Saying that, we will be talking about a very sad topic. That, of course, being the modern Iranian, well, just the Iranian. Now, how Iran got to the point where it is, as I'm saying these words, getting fucking ground pounded.
Yeah.
So,
Because I mean, I know there's a lot of things that people, probably kind of have a layman's idea, which I did too when it came to, various different things about leading up to the conflict, like yeah, the Iranian Revolution and then all that. But at a certain point, I was like, even myself, I was like, I should probably look into more details about like what is, like the problems going on there now in the sense of like the historical context of how we got here. And frankly, it is a lot more complex than even I thought. So there, I mean, there's a lot of juicy stuff where I'm
there
just
is
like, oh
indeed.
shit,
I do
yeah.
love history, so I am aware of a lot of it. It's just that the nuances fall by the wayside when you're looking at like the big events. What happened during World War Two? What happened during the Cold War? What led up to the Shah being overthrown? What happened before all that? When did Persia stop being Persia and start being Iran? Stuff like that. Um,
Hmm.
when did the Ayatollah take over and make everything 1,000 times horrible? Um, when did America start to throw vast sums of money that it frankly could use elsewhere, like, say, a fucking healthcare system, into overcoming Iran, failing, and instead propping up thousands of little fucking terrorist cells that eventually led to 9/11? When did, what did, how did, who did, so on and so forth.
Yep. And like I said, it goes a lot more farther back than people kind of realize.
Mm-hmm.
Because like even when it comes to the idea of the Shah, like it literally actually does go back to literally 100 years ago. Like it first was established in 1925,
The
like with the
modern
Pahlavi,
Shah, anyone who was
yeah.
before that, is going back because, like, first things first, the Persians, the Farsi speakers, claim descent from the same people that the Chuds think the Greeks fought in 300. You know,
Hmm. Yeah.
those Persians are the same Persians to a Farsi speaker today. They're like, yeah, that's us. Did you look like that? No. Oh, what about in Alexander the Great, the movie with Colin Farrell? No, no, we didn't act like that. We didn't talk like that. But they have been around for a long time. And this is
Oh,
just
absolutely.
another chapter in their existence.
Yeah. I mean, even like the whole idea of them being an Islamic Republic today, when Islam first was established in Persia, like that was even back to the ninth century. Like it's been a back and forth thing with Persia, at least when it comes to things like Islam and the historical like kind of religious back and forth, in that region.
Zoroastrianism was the original
Yeah, and then
religion,
there's Zoroastrianism, yeah, because that's
which
been
still
like
exists.
one of
I've
the
met one of
oldest.
them. Um,
Yeah, yeah. There's still like a minority of Zoroastrians in
quick,
Iran
tell
that
me the most
even though it's
famous.
technically,
Well, who's the most famous Zoroastriist?
uh, I honestly wouldn't know to be honest.
You'd know immediately if I told you the name. So you don't remember?
Shit. Okay, now I feel like I'm gonna be dumb if I really don't know.
No, but if you knew anything about him, Freddie Mercury.
No shit. I
Yep,
actually
he
didn't
was
know that.
raised Zoroastriist. He had to flee from the Ayatollah. Him and his family.
Damn.
Yep.
Well, I knew that he like his family came from Iran, but I didn't know about that. Well, shit.
Yep.
Learn something new every day, man.
And no, folks,
Maybe
that
he was
was
like a
not
spiritual
the
person and stuff, but I
Zoroastriist
just
I've
didn't know
met.
that. Oh.
um, but no, they fascinating religion in of itself. But yeah, when Islam from Iran and Mesopotamia hit Persia in Muhammad's conquests and then his successors, they overran Iran, and they did all the things Islam did, which was slaughter, codify, make a part of a wider community, and then break up into its fighting, like its argumentative sides, Sunni and Shia, which I always forget. Which is the Persian? Is it Sunni or Shia?
It's yeah.
Shia,
Yeah,
yeah.
like so Iran is Shia, and then there's like a Shia minorities in places like in Iraq and elsewhere. But yeah, they're pretty much the predominant Shia population of Muslims in the world, and then but Sunni is like the pretty much the biggest one.
Mm-hmm. I try. Um, but yeah, the history of Iran is absolutely gigantic. We're talking back to like the first civilization, Sumeria and shit like that. Shit that predates the Epic of Gilgamesh. But saying all that we have to make a cutoff. So, what year do you want to start at?
Well, I'd say basic, funny enough, like the Pahlavi Iran page is kind of a good little start because it gets a good beginning kind of summary about where like we're at, like how to kind of move forward where we're at now. Because it's like I said, like in 1925 is when the first established like Shah and was first started. Because because funny enough, by Reza himself, because it initially happened a little bit sooner before officially got established in 1925, because he led a Cossack brigade into Tehran to launch a coup against the ruling government at that time. And the Majlis, which is like basically the equivalent of like their legislator or like parliament, basically, they had like constitutional assembly and disposed of the Qajars, which is like another form of like their legislator, to install him, which was first to be prime minister, but then essentially established him as Shah to become the imperial state of Persia, which was the Pahlavi state. And that's kind of essentially how it starts, with the Pahlavi Iran that we know about, at least prior to Mossadegh, prior to the revolution, and even prior to like the Shah that was established after the coup. Like it goes on even before.
Well, of course, yeah. I
and
mean,
Iran at least,
British
yeah,
interests,
and during World
British
War
and
II at
French
least,
interests were there at the same time as they were getting established in India. But as you can see here on Wiki, the British generals, like the British, were involved heavily in ensuring it because of the British Petroleum Company, the
hmm
which had a
the
major
Anglo-Iranian,
impact.
yeah, I think it was like the Anglo-Iranian oil company,
Hmm.
or the AIOC, which they are kind of important off and on throughout a lot of this. But at least so far, haven't really been a major player yet. Because for right now, because like when World War II broke out during the 40s, the Shah had declared Iran at least a neutral throughout the war to keep themselves, just out of it. But it ended up being invaded by not just the Soviets, but also the British too. This part is actually interesting. I never knew this part happened, the Anglo-Soviet invasion of Iran. And there's
Yeah,
actually a
it's
whole
not
page
very
about it.
talked about much. Being big into World War II history, and like after a certain point, you've devoured everything. You kind of move on to the peripheries, and yeah, the English attacking from the south and the Soviets invading from the north to change the pro-Axis Shah. Um, which that made he was already kind of a puppet, but he was like afterwards a little bit of a he afterwards it was without a doubt he was already a puppet. Like he serves Western interests from there on out,
Yeah.
which
Actually, even shows
means
like a cool little map of the occupation because there was at least I don't know if which page you're on, but I know at least in the Anglo-Soviet invasion they have like a little
you can
map
see
showing
the
their
screen
occupation.
I'm on, right?
Well, I'm on my own actually,
Oh well,
but
it helps if you
yeah,
if you look at the shared screen that
yeah,
everyone
yeah,
else can.
yeah, no, for sure, for sure.
Um,
It's the Anglo-Soviet. Oh, there it is. It's the one with the tank there.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, because yeah, if you go down to like occupation and
Yeah, the
yeah, because
Soviets didn't fuck around. Three armies were summed up, while the
yeah,
British
they
sent
sent like
two divisions and a couple of brigades.
and three brigades and stuff. Yeah, they were yeah, because the British basically just like were there for like naval occupation. Which, if you noticed, it's also like around that Strait of Hormuz too. Like
The most
this is another
important
little thing I've
shipping
noticed.
bottleneck in the world.
Yeah, and I've one thing I've noticed is that like a lot of different things that we'll get into, this kind of pops up off and on when you're looking at like Strait of Hormuz and certain conflicts and things that
Yep.
happen.
It's one reason why Kuwait became a major oil exporter because it's right at the
Hmm.
end of it. So it made all that trip out. Same with Bahrain and Qatar. And there's Doha, which at the time of this would have just been like, there's Oman, Bahrain, Kuwait, which of course were British.
Hmm.
And there's India coming in. Afghanistan. Look at that. They actually brought resources through Afghanistan. What a different fucking time.
Yeah, I think it's like one of the major highways or something.
Mm.
But yeah, it's honestly kind of like, to me, kind of wild, like, me not knowing really too much about this little part of Iran's history, because, and knowing that it did play a pretty significant role into leading up to, how things end up
The
becoming now.
Soviets considered this to be more important than the ships that were heading off to from Britain up to Archangel, getting hit by U-boats, because this was a
Hmm.
direct line. Because look, this is where the Baku oil fields are, right? This is where the Soviets got the majority of their oil. Hitler tried to get this far. He got maybe about here. He got a little close, but he didn't get as close as obviously to wipe them out and all that. Actually, technically, he did
Yeah.
get the outskirts of Baku, but like they'd already been burned. However, after he'd been pushed out, the Soviets launched a massive attack here and did well what we're going to be talking about. But like for the Soviets, getting resources through here was as easy as this rail line. This rail
Yeah.
line that road line, boom, boom. They just got stuff whenever they wanted. And it's like they needed this way more than the British did, which was just for its oil.
Yeah, which later once the war ended, there was kind of some definite truth because the Soviets didn't want to leave
Oh,
because the British and Soviets made an agreement where they would stay in Iran for at least about 6 months after the war ended, but the Soviets, due to the fears of quote like Western interests and other excuses, mostly about like protecting the Soviet
no, no,
sovereignty and
excuses would be the right
interest
term of
and
it. Yeah,
yeah, there were just excuses, of course, but a lot of it was just like, nah, we're going to kind of instill our own little sphere of influence here and try to make Iran more Soviet friendly,
it's why
basically.
after the war the Iranian Communist Party skyrocketed
Yep,
because all their
including
little agents from the NKVD.
yeah, which I know like at the crisis of 1946, which led because of the Soviets sticking around, there was they kind of did like these separatist movements which were backed by Iran, like People's Republic of Azerbaijan, and
Yeah.
including the Kurdish People's Republic as well for at least a little bit of a time.
Don't forget, was it Pakistan, which is like up here around Tabriz and shit like that. They're the
Yeah,
ones who captured the Iranian embassy in London, resulting in the SAS's most coolest of um, public displays of badassery, where they went and rescued the London embassy. Those were separatists from Iran, and the Iranian government wasn't friendly with Britain, but it was still had an embassy, and these people jumped the embassy and overtook it and demanded equal rights to basically all this. And the SAS came in and did a bunch of stuff that resulted in many books that many guys in their 40s will be reading to this day.
yeah, because that was the Iran Contra, I believe, wasn't it?
No, no, this is Iran
No,
Contra is something else.
okay, that yeah, okay, that because it was a little
Oh,
different, yeah,
I'll show you what I'm talking about. The
because I know there's I wouldn't be surprised if it was at least around the same time where there was something like that that happened where like a
There,
student youth movement and like a leftist movement kind of like
there it
raided an
is.
embassy and occupied it.
Nope, this is it. Part of the
Oh,
Arab
okay. Oh, this
separatism.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So they wanted, yeah, the Democratic Revolutionary Front of the Liberation of Arabistan. Ah, so it wanted
Arabistan,
to
huh?
They wanted to join back up to an Arabic country, and of course, Iran is not Arabic; it's Farsi. So, and it's active in Kurdistan at Iran.
Or,
Okay.
yeah, Kazakhstan and Iran, huh?
Yeah, this shows my age. Every like modern day like history documentary of the time, like American Special Forces tonight at 11, like the finest of the Waffen SS tonight at 11, the British SAS's greatest moment was this, where
The
they
old state,
during the embassy
the deep
siege.
secret.
Yeah, this basically.
Osama bin
Um,
Laden, how he was found and killed.
Exactly, with the
Those little
3D
docs and
model of
shit.
his bunker and shit like that. Yeah.
Yep, and everything, all that shit.
They get a bunch
Man,
of
History
guys
Channel
who've
was
been out of the service for like 20 years coming in to
right.
get
Yeah,
paid $75 to
it's
be
that like
like,
one
yeah.
CIA guy who's retired.
Oh god, they normally are either paid by fucking Russia or don't know a fucking clue about anything. But now this was all you see, this was all filmed. Like the outside of it, you got to see these guys in black with MP5s just burst in and go, and there's
Yeah,
no
because
way
I've seen
around it.
like
It looked
pictures and
cool
videos
as
and stuff
fuck.
like this. Yeah, it really is. It's just some pure aura going on.
Oh, it was because no one saw
At
it
least as the
coming.
kids would say.
Yeah, like as always, the actually, you know what? The Modern Warfare series owes its existence to this operation because half of it is SAS all being super sneaky and cool. Like it's because of this.
It really is, yeah. It's either that or just like hoorah Marines or Army Rangers, but
The
it's
other
either
half of
that
it,
or
yeah, is
like the
Americans
special
have a
forces
lot
of the
of money to
SAS, yeah,
fire artillery
TF-104.
shells. Congratulations.
Yeah,
You know,
all right.
this one is like we don't have a lot of money. Here's like 12 guys who have been trained as best as humans can be trained to do a thing, and they do it. You know, it's that
Yep.
this is a hell of a thing. But don't get me wrong, like fuck the SAS, because well, I'm Irish, and you go up north, and you can tell. Oh yeah, there was that time that church got fucking open fired on by a bunch of SAS guys. That was fun.
Ooh,
You know?
that
Yeah,
sounds
yeah.
like
Like
a
so
joy at the time.
I'm not exactly like trying to suck their dick, but credit where it's due. Damn.
Yeah, credit, where shit goes down right, you know.
Yeah. Anyway, point is it all ties into Iran, which is what we were talking about.
Oh yeah. But yeah, pretty much at least, from, like especially so far with like, the things with the Soviets and and then with like the British being invaded and stuff, like it kind of led into the crisis that prior to the main oil crisis that started. I'm trying to find if I yeah, here we go. I'm not too sure if I oh yeah, I had to save it. Yeah, Iran crisis of 1940s. Yeah, there it is. Yeah. I'm not too sure if it's saved like a little pic of it or not. Did I save it? It should be in there.
Iran Revolution 2026. Battle of Iran, Iran Iraq, Operation Nimble Archer.
Oh, I did not. Yeah, for some. Okay, hold on. I got it on my side, so I could just do this. Do boom. Didn't do that. Yeah, yeah, just do that. There we go. Because then,
Yeah.
please have that. All right, there we go.
Iran Crisis in 1946, also known as the Abijani Crisis. Iranian sources, one of the first crises during the aftermath of World War II. Views of Joseph Stalin to relinquish occupation of Iranian territory. Yeah, they didn't want to leave.
Yeah, and this also was kind of the beginning of the U.S. Having the Truman Doctrine, or like the anti-Soviet, anti-communist kind of sentiment of we got to be everywhere and have the CIA kind of fuck around, with different nations. This is kind of where it starts. Like I initially thought it started with the Greek Civil War that happened after World War II, because that was definitely one of at least the first major proxy wars that happened. But this is kind of at least the first like interventional crisis that happens. That got started with the U.S. slash the West and the Soviets having their relations soured pretty much practically like immediately after the war ended.
Mm.
But the proxy wars didn't really start up until the Greek Civil War began. But
Yeah,
this is kind of like a little moment of where Iran starts to become meddled into Western affairs more directly at this point. Like this is where like the Anglo Iranian oil company becomes a lot more prevalent, and also where the U.S. and CIA start becoming a little bit more prevalent, but not at this point yet, because I don't think the CIA was established quite yet at this time.
well, the Anglo Iranian oil was major for obvious reasons. I mean, if you can convince your voting bloc that your prices of oil, wow, this is fucking relevant, will go down, they will vote for you. And so that means whoever controls Anglo Iranian Oil Co. Here. Um, this is the nationalization of it. Here it is. That's the old building in Tehran.
Ooh.
Oh, I didn't actually think they had an office in Tehran that would still be alive. I thought they'd nuke it. Um, although it is caught in trees. No, that's alright.
Probably used for something else now, I
Oh,
imagine.
I'm sure. Come here. museum for all you know. Like from
Oh,
yes,
probably.
referred to a Persian by its in Iran, 1954. British Petroleum Company, BMC. The BP and one of the accidents of the modern BP Public Limited Company, as in the BP oil spill. This is their This is
Hmm.
their parents,
Yeah.
or one of them
It's
anyway.
it's a little baby. Oh my goodness.
Yep.
Kind of coincidental how that works, huh?
Mm-hmm. Look at this,
Well, interesting
1901.
how we find BP involved.
William Knox McDarcy, a millionaire London socialite, negotiated an oil concession with um, Mustafa al-Din Shahriar of Persia.
Oh yeah,
Now,
that was part of the Qajar dynasty that the Shah overthrew. I
mm-hmm.
didn't really bring him up too much because it's not really too important with moving forward with what we're kind of getting into. But he's actually kind of an interesting character
And look at
himself.
this. He financed this with the capital he made from his shares in the highly profitable Mount Morgan mine in Queensland. So much for any idea that someone has that someone can be like a millionaire who starts with nothing. Because
Mm,
he used his money from a fucking mine to buy off an oil field. You know? Man of the people, that one.
definitely,
Yeah.
man, the people distributing that wealth.
I started with a small loan of $1 million.
Small loan, $1 million, folks, from my father. Let me tell you,
Mm-hmm.
it was a great loan, beautiful loan, a big,
Look
beautiful
at
loan.
this.
Some
In
people say.
exchange, the shall receive £20,000 or 2.1 million today. Now he
An
also
equal
was
amount of
promised
shares of
16% of the future profits, but let's be real here. Do you think that happened?
I wouldn't be too surprised. I mean, but who knows?
Hmm.
I'm sure he probably got some of that, but probably not
He got
forever or not for
enough
that
to
long.
make sure his palaces were well furnished and his concubines were many.
And all nice and sparkling gold.
And they sent him a car every day. And one of those fancy Rolls Royces.
Hmm.
If you've ever seen that scene where the Nazis are negotiating with that Iranian sheik or lord or emir um,
Hmm.
in Indiana Jones, it's basically probably like that. You bribe him off by just giving him a bunch of random shit. Just give him a bunch of random shit and he's fine.
Yeah, it'll be okay.
Yeah. Because that will help his country for reasons. Nationalization. Here we are. This is where we want to
I
get.
didn't know. Honestly, a lot of what I pulled is also just in that one thing there too,
Oh,
in
like
that
you
one
said
big
it
page.
yourself, there's a lot of depth to this shit.
Oh yeah, like 'cause there's so much
Right into it.
overlap with a lot of these different things I was looking up. Like it was kind of hard to compartmentalize every little thing and find the most important
You
stuff, but
can't. I mean, we're going to
it.
be here for at most 2 hours.
Oh yeah, definitely. And who
Um,
knows? There could even be a part two with this,
Maybe,
depending on
but
how
the
deep
next
it goes.
person has already been lined up for next month, so you're gonna have to wait a minute. And at
No,
that
it's good.
point,
It's good.
I guarantee you, next month, that the news will have changed in a way that makes a lot of what we're seeing here redundant. What's gonna
Well, at
happen
least
to Iran
at
next?
least for more
It's
the contemporary side. I mean,
yeah,
at least learning about how it got to this point.
mm,
Hopefully there ain't no redundancies there.
hopefully. Um, all right, so this goes back in now. Discontent in Iran. 33, the AIOC. By the way, if you play Hearts of Iron 4, this is a massive debuff to your country's oil supply, but it gives you political points, which is the shorthand term of money in that game. So
Yeah.
they take away all. Also, they hate when you have anything other than oil being produced. Why? Because they want you to just focus all your industry to oil so they can maximize their profits. So they give you a debuff if you want to build things like a road.
Oh my God.
Yep.
I haven't played Hearts of Iron 4 in a while, so knowing that Iran has a focus right now, I'm just like, oh shit, I need to get back and
it's
playing.
one of the DLCs. I think it's called like the Eternal Lion or something like that. But it focuses on the Middle East, and yeah, Iran is one of the three major countries they focus on, and one of which is the power, or should I say, the parasitical nature of the AIOC. The
Yep.
powered Soviet Union invaded and occupied Iran to order secure oil fields and operate secure supply routes to the USSR. The Persian Corridor, million tons of American land lease, and other materials alone. Reza Shah was forced to abdicate in favor of his younger son, who perceived he'd be far less able to act against their interests. From World War II, nationalistic sentiment was on the rise in the Middle East, most notable example being the Iranian nationalism, which we shall now open up in a second tab. A pro-Western Iranian government led Prime Minister al-Razami initially resisting the national pressure. In session, British offered a supplemental oil agreement to appease unrest in the country. The agreement agreed royalty payments would not drop below 4 million, reducing the area which would be allowed to drill. Promises more Iranians be trained to administrative positions. Well, that was the thing. Like, if your country is a petro state, right, you will never bother to learn how to operate advanced electronics. Why would you? The money's
Yeah,
right
there's
there.
no yeah, there would be no point when you just have like all the interest going for petroleum and
Yep.
anything around that, which you don't need
You'll never
advanced
go
electronics to do.
overseas and learn the modern economic systems because, to you, the economic system begins and ends when getting the oil from the ground to the ships. Whatever the
Yep.
foreigners do afterwards doesn't matter. They give you vast sums of money, which you use to live what you think to be a very comfortable life. Until you realize that's not how that works. And there's a lot of caveats. And every time you try to suggest that maybe we should not pay these foreigners so much, you get put in jail.
Yep.
And, well,
Also, another fun
yeah.
little thing too is that like when it comes to putting all the focus to that, and you have a population that wants to go into like advanced electronics or like anything that's part of broader intelligentsia, you're going to have a brain drain too because they're going to be exported out and go to
Upper
other
crust
places
won't
that
stay
have
there.
more access to them.
Because, for
Yeah.
starters, there just won't be the offices for them to take. Especially if a lot of those offices are taken over by foreigners. Look to the Saudis. If you ever seen the movie Syriana or Cyrenia, never know how to exactly pronounce it.
I
Um,
haven't.
but they talk about this, where the moment the oil dries up in Saudi Arabia, Saudi Arabia's economic export will be on the par with Albania.
Yeah,
Like it
it
has
would have nothing.
nothing to offer but oil, and every single time the oil is diversified with, say, schools, so people can learn better. The the interests that be in the guise of their local politicians, or in the case of the Saudis, local royals, will just step in and be like, no, you have to keep producing oil, because if not, then the Brent crude will go up a little bit, and that will hurt our bottom line, which will hurt our investors, which will hurt us as people. So fuck you, we will overthrow you and replace you with your brother who knows how to follow orders.
Yep. Well, I think at least in this case it'd be his son, if I remember, with the next shot, because
Yeah.
Reza Shah at least was kind of a little bit of a mixed leader, I would say, from what I was reading about him, because
Oh,
like he did help
there's
like
very good. There's very few good things about this
very
motherfucker.
few, yeah. Like it's literally just kind of grasping at straws. But the little, like, because Mossadegh really, once we get to him, because it's actually a good video that helps summarize about that coup and stuff. So we can get to that once we get to that point. But
We can get to
yeah,
it right now.
like there's really very little, unfortunately, when it comes to the leaders of Iran that are really good. really at any point, up till most of the deck, and even then, that's a very, very tiny period of time.
Hmm.
Because most of the deck was only prime minister for like a year at most, I think, if that. Like, it wasn't really there for that long.
I should put Excel farther. Onset of the Cold War, which yeah is what the hell? A form. Hold on. By a now qualified pilot, Mohammed Reza was fascinated with flying and technical details of airplanes, and any insult to him was always an attempt to clip his wings. Mohammed Reza was directed more money to the Imperial Iranian Air Force, which, for the record, if I remember right, after the Iranian coup, the Iranians actively destroyed a vast number of Western made aircraft because they saw it as Western decadence right before Saddam invaded.
Oh yeah, I remember something about that too,
Um,
which is kind of hilarious because they they would
They
need
were
those, and
attacking.
also
They were attacking Iraqi tanks with flags at some points. Like Iran had no army; they had militia. It was like this government based off like Islamic fundamentalist militias. While Saddam's
yeah,
was a
well,
good old
like
fashioned totalitarian. Here, all these soldiers and tanks and artillery, everything can be solved. Well, he didn't win the war, so no, it didn't.
yeah, I mean, the war was literally just like like a status quo. Nothing happened. Like it was just literally a stalemate kind of war when it was all said and
It
done.
was
It's actually kind of interesting because it has a little bit of correlation even with like modern war, at least in conventional warfare, because it's like the first.
Ukraine and Russia with the
It was
trench
like the first. Yeah, it
warfare.
was the first time. Yep, the trench warfare. First time that helicopters had like combat and dogfighting. First time ballistic missiles were used in conventional warfare.
You
A
see,
lot of things that we're seeing today in war outside of like drone warfare was kind of initially started there.
yep. Um, you have to realize. Well, you have to realize that the smaller wars are how the bigger countries test their new toys. During the 20s and 30s, the Spanish Civil War was how artillery and dive bombers could be used. The
Hmm.
English figured out how to use dive bombers because they were attacking Palestinians and like other tribal groups in their empire. The hell, World War One was not the first use of aircraft in war. It was um, it was the Italian invasion of Libya, which I think was 1905. But even before that, you could argue Pancho Villa attacking Texas. American bombers, American aircraft had bombs with them, mortar shells, and a
Yeah.
pilot would just hang out the side and just drop the bomb.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
that,
Actually, I watched I watched a 10-part mini docuseries on Pacho de Villa not that long ago, and he's a really legit fascinating dude.
wasn't he?
Like, I mean, yeah. Like, and also even Pancho Villa, like his army, even had like, and the Mexican army itself even had like their own air force and had some aircraft, or they did shit like that too. It was
All you
kind
need
of
to know
a,
is how to once you get the schematics, all you need is to find someone who can make a car, and now you've made an aircraft.
mhm,
And making a car,
yeah,
sure, back then wasn't as easy as finding someone who knew how to make a bike. But if you found someone who could make a bike, they in theory knew how to make a car. And if they knew how to make a car, they knew also if you knew someone how to make a modern day ship, like a steamship, they knew how to make a car. So very quickly, that's how that tech sprang up overnight. It's different from drones. Drones require like
oh yeah,
microchips and shit like that, and you need to know how to make microchips to be able to know how to make a drone. But it's still the same principle. And nowadays, if you go to Ukraine, you'll find a war where there's guys on horseback running between trenches getting shot at by fucking drones.
I
That's the
know. It's
war
like the
we're
most
in now.
craziest shit.
Like,
And then like people out there are like modding their drones like to do different shit. And that's how like a lot of these like kamikaze drones like like rigging RPGs and shit on them. It's like kind of wild like seeing that even that same like thing you were mentioning like if a guy knows how to engineer some like or I guess in this case like a drone hobbyist or an RC plane hobbyist, they're gonna know how to figure out and tinker around with that shit.
yeah,
And then eventually be able to like customize them to do certain things and be able to like, get a better edge in battle and stuff. It's kind of wild to see like how much, when it comes to drones, just with that alone, how much it's like evolved while still, even 100 plus years later, it's still kind of weirdly the same with like the trench warfare and then like cavalry charges
in the
every so
90s,
often. That
the stuff we used to hear from those like history channels, discovery channels, sort of like documentaries from like the military goes.
like future weapons,
Yeah,
and all
in
that
the
shit.
future,
Yeah,
lasers and robots will solve everything. Well, I mean, kinda, but not. Like, not the way you're describing it. Like, yeah. Whoa, damn.
yeah.
Hiccups are in force today. Damn. Do apologize there, folks. I've had a busy day and it's not over yet. But I will say that, like, getting back to Iran, the um, the whole thing was like the war with Saddam, which we'll get to in a minute. Um, it was absolutely like batshit the the war because it was done basically without the Americans and Russians outright interfering on the surface because those two countries needed no help to
I was
stop
gonna
each
the
other.
caveat, be like, well,
Oh, don't
not
get
as
me
much.
wrong. Like Iran had tons of American leftover shit and was receiving back pay from the Soviets.
Yeah, with the Iran
But
Contra deal, because there's
America
a
was
lot of
also feeding Saddam and giving him tons of like old Soviet equipment they caught from. Actually, I'm not sure.
yeah, like
Not sure where they bought it. I think they bought it from third parties, like from the old Soviet bloc and shit.
yeah. Well, the Soviets were like, because the Iran War was in '89, so the Soviets were still a thing. So I know that at least at that point, we had our relations soured with Iraq. At this point, or it started to sour. So we
No,
weren't
that
really
happened
helping too much with
afterwards.
Iraq.
Up to that point, like
Oh
up.
yeah, afterwards.
Yeah, because we were the
Yeah,
ones feeding Saddam, so he wouldn't have any of it.
right. Yeah. Well, and also, well, Iran too. Like we're kind of feeding a little bit on both sides at that one
That
because with
hadn't
the Iran
happened. No,
Contra,
that already
we're sneaking
happened.
in weapons.
Like Iran had
Yeah, it already
already.
happened, but
Yeah.
then yeah, but what I'm saying is like there was also like a few
Hold on, I
actual
want to
alleged
actually
leaks.
finish this quote from the Iranian Air Force. Marvin Zonis wrote that
But
Mohammad Zir's obsession with flying reflected an Icarus complex known as ascensionism, a form of narcissism based on a craving for unsolicited attention and admiration, and the wish to overcome gravity, to stand erect and grow tall, to leap into the air, to climb, to rise, to fly. Well, motherfucker, we all get that, but why don't you stand on top of Everest and jump off and let's just see, like,
right, I guess it's kind of ironic because he did kind of fall like Icarus eventually with the revolution.
damn right he did. I watched what's the name of it? Persephonon. That's that French animated film about the girl who it's based off her real life her real life memories growing up during the Iranian Revolution and being forced to wear like the burqa and then fleeing to America and all that because Iran under
Mm,
the Ayatollah was a nightmare.
yeah. Huh. I haven't heard of it, but it sounds
Hold on,
interesting.
I'll
I definitely want to check it out because I
I'll I'll,
mean I've heard
I'll
a
get
lot
you
of
because
different like French animated media and Lil that scene is actually really good.
it won an Oscar.
Oh
Um,
shit.
yeah, like it's pretty popular. Um, but anyway, go on while I'm typing this.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, at least with like with the what was it? What would be a good point? I'm trying to keep going.
There it is.
Oh, here,
2007. I didn't think it was
like
that. Here,
actually, there's
you never,
kind
you
of a
never saw
funny
this
little
film
thing that I
before?
kind of oh here, yeah, I haven't. 2007. Oh, so it's been around for a while.
Yep.
Shit. Yeah, I haven't heard of it before though. Yeah, definitely something
You
I'll have
haven't
to check
seen
out.
any images of it, and yeah, she wore shit in
Oh
like
yeah, I
punk
probably
shit, and she was
yeah,
ripped off
like
in
I'm sure
photo
I
and all that.
definitely have. Yeah, I'm sure I've definitely yeah, because the animation style is familiar, so I think I've seen it around before, but never knew that that's what it was.
Mm. Hell of a film. Highly recommend it.
Yeah, definitely something I'll have to check out.
Like, don't
Yeah,
get me wrong.
oh,
Like,
just look that up for like
all the while I'm like, wow, the Iranian government sure is scumbaggy. Yeah, it is. So what? What America's doing is wrong. Like, yeah, those two things do not like those two things do not negate each other. It's just horrible what's happening in the fucking Straits of Hormuz with Iran and being on fire right now for Israel. Just just Israel. There's no other way around this. And like that
yeah,
just
like
does not change the fact that I'm glad that the Ayatollah has been killed. I want more Ayatollahs to be killed, frankly. Like, it's fine. So what? That does not mean that you also can't also want the death of anyone who's involved. Like Netanyahu. I want Netanyahu to die.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, yeah, like a lot of it's just like in the sense of you know, the meddling of the affairs is fundamentally a problem, but like the idea of them being overturned is never been a bad thing to me. Like because yeah, so they all suck and they're shitty. Arguably, the current one now is even worse than
Not
the
only is he
previous one
worse,
because at
he is
least
vengeance. Like, his whole
yeah, he's
family
like
was
literally
killed.
wanting to have like the great vengeance, because his grandfather even mentioned after the major coup that happened from the 50s. So when he eventually took over power, he literally, one of his first things he said about the U.S. is was called the Great Satan and Israel the Little Satan. Meaning that like Israel, even from then, was already kind of meddling and fucking with Iran at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And not too much. They weren't really a big player up until I would say recently. Like I'd say like post 2000 or like 2010 especially is when Israel really started to kind of get their involvement in Iran to the point where they're kind of the big ones and fucking around with Iran and we're just going along with it because we're the big bad bitch that has the big bad toys to do it with and Israel's like go do it for me. So even with the whole invasion idea, like Israel literally was like, we're not gonna send any support outside of like air support, and even then, not really. Like they were not gonna send anything out. They're just gonna let the U.S. pretty much be involved with it. Which, even though it's their war, they conveniently enough, they don't want to lose anyone to it.
All right. So let's damn, I didn't expect the hiccups to be this bad. Damn. Whew. All right. So this is the link that you sent me here. The coup that ruined the U.S.-Iranian relations.
Oh yeah, with Mossadegh.
2000, the CIA declassified documents that made it clear American and British agents.
I normally listen to this guy's voice actor when he does the weird food or the simple food videos where he talks about like the why do we eat Twinkies or the history of Pepsi and shit
Right.
like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of why I pulled it because I was familiar with and I was like,
Played a
oh yeah, I
central
kind of know this dude
role
a little
in the
bit.
1953 coup d'etat that led to the ejection of Iran's democratically elected prime minister and the installation of a despotic Shah. Iranian resentment over this tampering culminated in the 1979 Islamic Revolution, and the rapport between the U.S. and Iran has never been the same. So, today,
That
we're going
really
to take
is,
a look
yeah.
at the
I actually want to
1953
pause it really
coup
quick.
that ruined the
Just because the guy that you saw initially before that image, who was holding up like holding up like a little flyer or something. He's actually an important character a little bit that I don't know if gets brought up to this video because I only kind of went for like halfway through after I was like, all right, this is good. But it's his name is because I can find it. His name was Nawab Safari or Safavi. His last name is a little interesting, but he was one of the founders of one of the Islamic extremist groups that kind of helped bring in Khomeini as well a little bit. And at least played one of the major roles in the assassination in some assassinations as well. He eventually got executed, though. In the
U.S.-Iran relationship forever. But before we get started, be sure to subscribe to the Weird History channel. After that, please leave a comment and let us know what other moments of international intrigue you would like to hear about. Okay, let's see who broke up these two potential BFFs. By 1953, the CIA and British government had developed a plan to oust Iranian Prime Minister Mossadegh. The success of that plan rested on convincing Iran's current Shah, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, to seize power while a fake Prime Minister, Fazlollah Zahedi, was appointed. The CIA's Near East and Africa Division chief, Kermit Roosevelt, wrote that his organization wanted Pahlavi to stand fast as the CIA stirred up popular unrest, and then as the country lurched toward chaos, to issue royal decrees dismissing Dr. Mossadegh and appointing General Zahedi prime minister. The CIA wanted to produce such pressure on the Shah that it would be easier for him to sign the papers required of him than it would be to refuse. Officials connected to the agency held numerous meetings with both Pahlavi and conservative factions of the Iranian government to exert their influence. It took all summer, but the Shah finally agreed to the plan on August 13th. The CIA may have needed the Shah's approval for their plan to work, but they weren't in the mood to wait around for it before getting started. So along with the British government, the American intelligence agency began unrolling a propaganda campaign all over Iran and the world to discredit Mossadegh's party. In May of 1953, Kermit Roosevelt paid newspapers and journalists to publish gray propaganda, which was the CIA's name for spreading lies and unflattering caricatures of Mossadegh.
So, propaganda. Why did you add the gray to it? Just call it what it is.
Yeah.
Propaganda.
Unnamed newspaper was paid $45,000 to aid in bringing the Shah to the side of Western interests. As Roosevelt later wrote, the money was granted in the belief that this would make the Shah's organ amenable to our purposes. You can pause the video now and put your Shah's organ jokes in the comments below. Anyway.
I would, but like that's not much of an organ. My God. Come on, if you're gonna show a bulge, show it at least down to here. I mean, come on. Commit to the bit.
I mean, yeah, but like,
according to authors,
a little cheesy.
Make him a tripod.
Stephen Kinzer of All the Shah's Men, An American Coup and the Roots of Middle East Terror, the anti-Mossadegh messaging included claims that he was a Jew, a homosexual, a British agent, anything they thought would outrage.
You can have all three. Don't pigeonhole him. He can have multiple interests.
Yeah.
People. The demand for these stories was so
that a lot of these like tactics were used prior to like CIA because they did the same shit with like Hitler. They've done this even leading up with like people like Castro and shit. Like,
they did it with Castro.
It's kind of funny seeing like
with the dictator of what was the country? It was Indonesia. And they I remember reading this of all places in Obama's biography. When he grew up, and he briefly spent a year in Indonesia, in Jakarta, and at the time the government had, I shit you not, the American government had put out a fake porn leak video of him. It's not the actual dude. It was him. It was an actor dressed as, very quickly undressed as him, and a prostitute. Fucking being recorded, and the dictator was so proud of it that he posted it himself, and that was the first case of like revenge porn being reversed, you know?
Oh, I think I remember this. Like
the dictator.
Oh my God!
The CIA's idea was that this is a hardcore Islamic country, so him doing an un-Islamic thing would look bad. But he saw it as a form of virility. So
Yeah, he was like, yeah,
yeah, of course I
I'm a
did. Of
stud.
course
I
I
could
fuck
fuck.
bitches. I didn't fuck this one, but I would have if I was, and
But
I did
yeah,
a
I
better
fucked
job
bitches
of it
though.
too. You know, so I recently did a show. Last year, I did a show
He
called
basically like
Empire.
pulled the TJ Kirk when he got like blackmailed, kind of or whatever. When that
Yes,
shit happened,
where
yeah, he pulled the
they
TJ,
were
dude.
like, "Here are your nudes," and he posted up images of himself fucking a banana and pouring oil over his dick. That's what you. That's what you
Yeah,
do when you are
yeah, you
shown
just
with a
double down and
blackmail
say
shit.
fuck
You
it. Yeah,
fucking own it, and they have nothing to use against you.
yep, exactly.
Yeah.
So high that CIA officers in Washington, D.C. were contracted to write new articles. The CIA's efforts paid off, and the world
Oh,
braced
no.
for a revolution it believed to be brought on solely by Iranian citizens. One Associated Press release stated, unofficial reports are current to the effect that leaders of the plot are armed with 2 decrees of the Shah, one dismissing Mossadegh and the other appointing General Zahidi to replace him. As if all that wasn't cartoonishly evil enough, declassified documents later showed that the CIA hired Iranians to pose as communists in the months leading up to the coup. These fake communists threatened religious leaders and executed bombings, creating a further divide between Iran's Islamic factions and Mossadegh's government. Numerous leaders were targeted. One cleric's home was literally blown up. The reasoning behind this move was simple. At the time, the tension between the US and Soviet Union was the biggest international conflict in the world. The CIA and British government wanted Mossadegh's nationalist agenda thwarted by fabricated connections to fanatical communists. The CIA worked every possible angle to ensure its plan would come to fruition, even digging deep into Iran's complicated political history to find support. The man chosen to serve as prime minister after Mossadegh, Major General Fazollah Zahidi, was a royalist who pledged allegiance to the Iranian monarchy. Zahidi was a longtime minister whose affiliations with the royalist faction of the Iranian military were used.
Alright, I'll say it. The Iranian imperial uniform is very 40k. It's very Imperium, it's very sort of like Imperial Guard, and I love it. But
It is.
I'm glad that it's a relic now because every one of those little dots would have cost the lives of thousands of innocent people.
Yeah.
So as cool as it is,
Um,
I don't fucking care. It's a relic.
right. Yeah.
So let's see it in a museum.
Yeah. That's how I am with like especially old school military uniforms. Like, hey, it had its moment of drip and its aura, and it looks nice, but you know, it's rough of its passing time.
Konrad von Hotzendorf. Do you know who that is?
Or von Hausendorf. Fuck, why it rings a bell,
I'll
and I
give
feel
you
like
a
I should
hint.
know this.
World War One.
Hausendorf. Oh, fuck.
I'll give you a bigger
okay, yeah,
hint. Giant
I should know.
mustache.
Yeah, he had like a huge mustache. He had like the skull and bone like fur
That's
cap
right.
thing.
Yep.
That guy.
The
Yeah,
huge stucco
the
that
huge
had the
like
skull and
hot
bones
dog
on
hat
the
or
front
whatever
of
with
it.
the big. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's actually I
he
think
was
one of the early
a dog
like early
shit
iterations for the
general.
photocop too. But dude, his shit was just straight pure drip. I was just
Wasn't
like,
it? But he was
it.
awful at what he did. Awful,
Oh
awful
yeah,
general.
he was terrible.
But
But hey,
look
at least
at
he had
that
that orange
shit.
drip and everything on Glock.
Yes. That's the thing. Like, that's what. Would you believe I almost got what Alex Jones said when he had Nick Fuentes and Kanye there in his thing going, like, I get what you're saying, that Hitler, you know, like the Nazis, the SS uniforms were very good looking. But, I mean, we have to move past that to the point where the Nazis were bad. Then Kanye's like, actually, I think a lot of what Hitler said was really good.
Yeah,
Alex Jones
I,
of
I
all
I think
people is just there like this.
I know he's just like, what the fuck, no.
How have I
I do love
created
it.
such a monster?
What have I done?
This is not what I was talking about in the 90s with the black
Yeah.
helicopters. I wanted it to stay fucking X-Files.
You know, I think I've also noticed like when it comes to like military uniforms, the more quote like drippier it is, I think the worse and more competent they end up being. Like I think it's
Well,
something
the
I've just
Marines
noticed
have
because like
drip. The Marine formal uniform
No,
is
yeah.
very good, and they are solid at
Oh
what
yeah.
they do.
Like, standard uniform stuff, yeah. I guess like I mean more in like, generals when they have like all their medals and like
Yeah, yeah.
more
I'm
personal, like,
thinking of a general that was Zhukov from World War
oh,
Two,
Dmitry Zukov,
with
yeah.
his fucking
At least
endless
like
supply of
yeah,
medals
just
that he gave himself.
deadlift medals like going up his chest everywhere, yeah. At
Yeah,
least he earned them. At least, he
he
was a
did. He
competent
might be
actually.
one of like 18 people in the history of warfare who earned his titles. But even then, like,
Oh,
was he the
definitely.
greatest general ever? No, he just happened to
Oh,
win.
definitely not.
He got a lot
Yeah,
of people killed that didn't need to because he was desperate to prove to Stalin that he could get shit done.
yeah, which he did. I mean, it's
He
like at the end of
did.
the day,
There's
it's
no
about the
way
results.
around it. It's just, did he have
Yeah,
to do it with so many piles of corpses? No, but he did it.
no,
Um,
definitely not.
Anyway, let's go on.
To the CIA's advantage. Again, it worked like a charm. When the coup eventually occurred on August 19th, much of the strong arming and physical acceleration was acted out by the royalist troops aligned with Zahedi and the Shah. As a bonus, the CIA also knew that Zahedi had a contentious relationship with Western powers, and they were able to use his reputation to distance themselves from the coup.
How dare he say things like, hey, don't rape our land and take all our resources away. Ah, the monster.
In an article on August 20th, the New York Times.
Whoa. Price in Germany €10? For a newspaper?
I just hope that's just random shit just to be there because €10 for a
That would be
newspaper
about
back in the 50s.
€14 today. And this was like, what, 2 or 3 years old? That would be 14
Yeah,
euro
about.
today, and that would be about close to $20.
Oh my lord.
Yeah. No. There's something weird going on there. Did they just randomly need to fill a thing? Like €10 for a
I
newspaper?
think they did. I'm just have to assume. I mean, because
Hold on, let's
I,
get
I
the
didn't even
numbers.
pay attention to that part. I was
New
just like, oh, all right.
York Times price Ireland. I know it says Germany there, but let's see whether. Look at this. Subscribe today for 0.50 cent a week. All right, 50 cent a week for a digital would be fine, but I'm actually talking about like physical copies. Because like every time I go into a fucking petrol station or like a news agent or whatever, like they have the New York Times, 4 to 6 for the daily issue, in like Eason's or wherever. So €4 for a newspaper already makes me very sad because like newspapers used to be like beyond fucking cheap.
Yeah.
Like it's not
I'm kind
10.
of glad that at least where I live, it's not for all papers, but for like local papers here in like Portland and kind of like Oregon broadly, we actually have just like free newspapers so you can just
Same.
like pick up.
They're called the Metro. And if you're in Dublin, if you're on I mean, they're called the Metro because you always see them in the trains and shit like that.
Yeah.
But in like New York, yeah, you used to see newspapers free all the time. Obviously, then you got a lot of the propaganda newspapers that are free, like the fucking
Oh yeah.
Watchtower and shit like that for the Jehovah Witnesses.
Oh yeah, I've seen like some interesting stuff every so often, and once in a blue moon, I'll see people usually at like rallies and stuff that'll like give out their issues of like papers because they're like a little local print outlet or something,
Well, of course.
and those are
Hell, if
and
you're
those
a
are usually
rally,
at
you're
least like
probably seeing people setting up food stands.
yeah, and at least luckily they're still cheap because they'll be like, oh, it's like 50 cents or like $1. That's usually like how much people usually will price it out for. But for me, it's like anything more than that just to read some news. I'm just like,
Which you
okay,
can
nah.
get for free. It pops up on your phone just randomly. Most phones come with at least one news
like
app.
news app or something. Yeah,
Yeah,
that is already like automatically notified and stuff.
you're
Yeah,
asking a
that's
lot, motherfucker. Like, Jesus
I know
Times
for
Christ.
predicted,
real.
Zahedi's ascendancy will probably be met with mixed feelings by the Western world. Views like this created plenty of room for plausible deniability on the part of the agency.
Not in my Euro.
On April 16, 1953, the CIA's chief of the Iran branch for the Near East and Africa Division wrote a memo to Kermit Roosevelt, which included a list of forces which will play a role in any effort to replace Mossadegh and to establish a stable government and evaluation of their attitudes. One of the forces listed is Sumka, Iran's nationalist political party at the time.
Yeah, there's a reason that logo looked like the way it looked like. It was a Nazi party. Or it was a National Socialist Party.
The
Yeah, that
officer, John
definitely
Waller,
looks a
described
little too
Sumka
plus.
as small in size but capable of producing fanatical street fighters. Sumka, founded in 1951,
Yep.
worshipped and mimicked the
Well,
Nazi
that's
Third Reich.
Yep, the Sumka was a again. If you want to go to Hearts of Iron, if you want to go down the fascist route, you put a huge chunk of money into the Sumka, even though technically in 1936 it wouldn't have been founded.
And its members were responsible for multiple street altercations all over Tehran. By 1952, reports were circulating that both the US and Britain supported.
You see, you have to remember, in the Middle East after World War II, pseudo-fascist organizations existed and still existed until, and I shit you not, Assad being outed in Syria, because the Ba'athist Party was inspired by the Nazis. One of
Yep.
their inspirations was the Nazi Party, where you unify yourself against a common enemy and you just kind of march in formation, and you know everything's
Yeah.
regimented and it's all, you go to these massive rallies and shit. It's fascism. It's just
Yeah,
another
if I
fascist
yeah,
party.
because also if I remember, the Ba'athist Party, at least when it was first founded, was initially more of like a left, but like national Iraqi sovereignty kind of like ideology
Well,
and
there will be
party.
no don't
But
forget, there's no such thing as an Iraqi like national identity up to quite recently.
yeah, it wasn't like a sense of like national identity in the
That
sense of
came
like we are
later,
quote
yeah.
Iraqi. It was more of like a sovereignty of like I want to know how to exactly explain it of like unify
It's
the peoples to
it's
like a
called pan.
national
Hold on.
collective effort of building each other up, kind of like a weird.
Hold on.
It was kind of a weird idea, even though it was
Let's
very
get to the bottom of it.
exclusive.
It's for the
Yeah,
record. I think what you're thinking of is called pan Arabism.
yeah, like because it initially was like kind of to that, but then it quickly like bled off from that.
Yeah. So which
I don't know how long the Baptist Party has been around though, because I know it's been a thing well even before Saddam was around.
1947. Wow. What are the
Oh well, okay. Interesting how that is.
Arabic Socialist
Yeah,
Ba'athist
similar
Party,
time.
and then a bunch of Ba'athists, and also known simply as the Ba'athist Party, was a political party founded in Syria by Mikhail Alfik, Salin al-Bitar, and associates of Zarik al-Asun. Party espounds Baathism, big shock, Arab nationalism, pan-Arabism, pan-socialism, and anti-imperialism. Don't let those words fool you, because what did the Nazis stand for? Nationalist Socialist Workers' Party. But they didn't have anything
Yep.
to do with the socialists whatsoever.
Yeah.
They definitely
Like a
did
lot
with
of this was-
nationalism, but workers and socialists, no. Same thing.
Yep. And
Called
same thing here,
Motto
which
United
is also
Freedom.
another thing that I've noticed.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, it's like another thing I've noticed is that despite the whole idea of like freedom, democracy, this is just literally another pattern of, well, as long as it's against communists, we'll be okay with fascists. Like
Well, yeah,
this
that
shows
happened
that
even
like
before the end of World War II.
yeah, like we were literally doing that, even near the end or even during World War II when it came to certain partisans or other factions that we've seen as more of like a loose end, that needed to be tied off when they weren't useful anymore.
You said you were talking about the Greeks, so you know about the joy of
Yeah, the Greek Civil War. Yeah.
or the fucking Yugoslavian Civil War. Oh boy, that was a fun one
Oh,
with the
yeah,
Chetniks.
that was
Oh
fucking
yeah.
insane. Yeah.
You go to Croatia today and you're like, wow, Croatia, founded by Nazi supporters. Everyone will give you like a long stare and be like, dude, we know, don't fuck with us, please. We want to ignore that little detail.
Yeah.
Which is fair because I wouldn't be exactly thrilled about it either. Which is, by the way, all I've heard of Croatia, nothing but positives. I'm glad Serbia lost the war. Fuck off, Serbia. They are fucking Nazis. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, sir.
Serbians.
Yeah, they are fucking.
But, yeah, no, it's not like I can't. Like, I used to hang out with the streamer, Girl Does Rant, now known as the Final Girlie. I mean, she doesn't stream anymore, but she was from either Slovenia or Slovakia, and yeah, that country is its history is bound with the partition of Czechoslovakia because of the Munich Agreement. And
Yeah.
when she's like, "Oh, I'm glad you really appreciate your country. So, who was your original country's founder?" Oh, he was a Nazi puppet. And then we had decades of communists, but now we're cool, which I bloody well hope so.
Hopefully.
Sumka. Even though the group had no more than 300 members at its height, it's possible the CIA backed its efforts financially.
Short video and it's trying to be like, it's sort of like, oh yeah,
Possible the CIA backed its efforts financially.
Yeah, this kind of possibly did it. Yeah, I mean, it does kind of a little bit because even though it had like not that many members, like it had enough finances and power and means to get what they needed done, and at least influence other groups and organizations to get the broader goals done.
I know I've read about it numerous times. Like, I know the Dulles and the guy who succeeded Dulles, who was in charge of the CIA. He would like receive messages of people being like, "Oh yeah. So any day now, the Shah will just be overthrown, or by a guy we want." Or maybe the Shah will be 100% cool and it's...
As the propaganda spread and mayhem escalated, it became obvious to Mossadegh that forces were attempting to overthrow his government. On August 15th, with advance warning, Mossadegh was able to prevent the coup from happening by convincing the Iranian military to remain loyal to him. The Shah fled to Baghdad, and Zahedi went into hiding while Mossadegh's forces detained dozens of conspirators. On August 18th, Kermit Roosevelt received a wire from CIA Washington headquarters telling him to call the coup off. It read, "Operation has been tried and failed, and we should not participate in any operation against Mossadegh which could be traced back to U.S. Operations against Mossadegh should be discontinued."
I gotta say this about the CIA. They have one thing over every other intelligence agency in history, and that's money. That's it. Does that make
they
you
very much always have the blank check.
Yeah. Does that make you a good intelligence agency? No. It actually kind of sucks. It's not a good agency. The KGB was so much better. And the best example of how the Chinese are doing, we never hear about them. That's how good they are. Until they fuck up, we never know how good they are. And when they do, we're like, oh, fuck.
That's what's oh shit, yeah.
That's how many years has that been going on for?
Yeah, it's like, oh, they've been doing this whole like spy operation, getting our data for like 10 years, and they just slipped up once.
If you go to London, you might as well be going to your fucking Green Mile if you're a Russian dissident, because the Russians will find you. Oh, the MI6 will do their best. Well, technically at that point it's MI5, but guess what? They'll fail.
Roosevelt's answer was a short one. No. We're not done here. A rogue CIA agent toppling foreign governments
Freaking
even while
fern
being
juice.
ordered
Yeah,
not
man, need to
to?
clean your
Ugh,
clogs.
yikes. Despite the cold feet on the part of the CIA brass, the operation succeeded. The day after Roosevelt received the wire, August 19th, Mossadegh was run out of Tehran, and headlines all over the world celebrated the return of Shah Pahlavi and the freshly appointed Prime Minister Zahedi. The coup was a victory, courtesy of massive crowds, possibly placed in the city through CIA maneuvering. On August 20th, CIA official Frank Wisner released an internal memo congratulating those who worked on Operation Ajax for their efforts. I am sure that you are aware of the exceptionally heavy volume of traffic which this operation has necessitated, he wrote. 2 days after the coup succeeded, both the CIA and British intelligence agency sent $5 million to Zahedi's regime. From the beginning, securing an oil agreement with Zahedi and Shah Pahlavi was the prime aim of the coup, and in that regard, the operation was a massive success. It was actually Britain that first placed the seed for the Iran coup in 1952. They were worried about Iran's plans to nationalize its oil industry. The British government reached out to America for help plan.
Fucking, after, I think, 1945, or late 1944 into 1945, Churchill was ousted by Clement Attlee, the guy who founded the NHS. And for decades afterwards, the British Empire unraveled, and Britain had to go through massive amounts of post-war debt. And in desperation, the British people re-elected Churchill, who was already starting to come down with hardcore like dementia, and he wasn't as good as he used to be. He apparently had a stroke a few years before he had actually gotten the nomination. So he had some interesting ideas. One you've probably heard of, the Suez Crisis. Him and France tried to go around America's back and occupy the Suez Straits after Egypt tried to nationalize them. This result tied in with Israel hopefully trying to invade at the same time to take all the Suez, the peninsula. If you look at the map, you'll see what I'm talking about. And,
right, yeah. With the Suez War, I believe, or like the 6-Day War, something like that.
Yeah, this failed pretty bad. No, the 6-Day War was something else. The same with the Tel Aviv War. They've had a lot of wars in the Middle East.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, they had so many wars, they all kind of blend in.
They do. So it failed because America said we will not back you, and also Israel couldn't manage to. Israel said Israel couldn't manage to get to the Straits in time, and Egypt wasn't taking it. At the exact same time, completely separate to all this, the Budapest/Hungarian revolt happened. If Churchill hadn't done this, America could have helped Hungary secede from the Eastern Bloc. But it had to focus its entire shit onto the Suez. So thank you, John Churchill of Churchill Incorporated.
Which also I'm kind of realizing since his like second term, he's all dementia addled and had a stroke, and then the parallel having a stroke and be there.
I'm sorry. It rhymes, you know. It just.
I know the rhythmic shit here. It's just
history.
Like I was just kind of thinking,
but it rhymes. Yeah, okay, there, George.
Very rhythmic as fuck.
Yeah, you see, the longer you watch and learn and read about history, the more you see the connections, and you can't not see the connections. It's just there.
I know. Well, that's partly why I wanted this has the top, because it really shows how much of the connections are to like what is now from all this shit.
None of the
it's
unless
like,
someone's watching this that was alive in the 50s, in which case, please by all means say something in the comments. None of this happened in our lifetimes, but it's setting the pace for what is about to happen.
planning and implementing the coup, which was designed to get rid of the nationalist figure Mossadegh, who insisted that oil should be nationalized. In a declassified CIA document, Operative John Waller made it clear the U.S. and Britain felt their interests were more important than Iran's. A new proposal agreement must at least appear to be more generous than any previous one. It must not insist upon compensation for years in
John Bull, who's off his fucking rocker.
which concession would have covered, he wrote. By 1954, the year after the coup, the privately owned Anglo-Iranian oil company resumed operations without fear of nationalization. It would go on to become British Petroleum, or BP, which still exists to this day. While Zahedi was promoted as Mossadegh's replacement, it was really Shah Pahlavi who retained power over Iran. He ruled like a dictator for the next 25 years, and according to NPR's Ramtin Arablouei, Western powers, including the U.S., didn't really care because he gave them easy access to Iran's oil. Mossadegh was erased from Iranian history, and the prime minister's legacy was tainted by disinformation campaigns. An autocratic ruler, matched with interference from other nations, led to a rise in religious and political extremism in Iran.
What he did was the same reason what happened in Afghanistan after the Soviets took over. You can't tell the Islamic... I suppose you could also do this in South America. It's never been put into practice, and that includes Cuba. But it's never been put into a practice where you can't just show up to an Islamic country and then tell them that there's no God, and then expect them to just be okay. That's not how that works. You ease into it. He wanted them to be a kind of like the modern day Catholics, where they kind of are like just lip service and there's nothing behind it. It's like, yeah, I believe in Jesus, but that's really about where it begins and ends. I don't do anything. I go to a church for like weddings and funerals, and that's about it. Like, he was asking a bunch of peasant serf farmers to suddenly drop everything, to give women the vote and equal rights, and just overnight. And then he was shocked to find there was pushback, but it was interwoven with nationalism, because nationalism, has been on the rise since the French Revolution. It's why all the flags look the same, and they all just it all coalesced to the coup that Assad.
As author Stephen Kinzer told NPR, the 1979 Islamic Revolution brought to power a fanatically anti-American regime that has spent more than 30 years working to undermine American interests.
Reagan never looked any more beautiful to me. That includes
all
when he was
over
standing next to a monkey.
The world.
Yep.
Actually, you had the monkey playing with
The
head.
U.S.-Soviet
That'd be
tension was the backdrop for this coup, and it fit into the ideological struggles between the Soviet-influenced East and American-British-backed West. The American government knew that success with the Iran coup would give it an edge over the Soviet Union. According to historian Mark Gasharovsky, the coup really reinforced the Cold War polarization of the region. Of course, that's the reason the United States did it. They did it because they were afraid of communist influence in Iran. However, the ultimate results were a bit of a mixed bag. Not only did the coup lead to more escalated tension between the U.S. and the Soviet Union, but they also gave the Soviet Union ammunition against its Western nemesis. Moreover, as a major influence on the rest of the Middle East, Iran's political climate had a profound effect on other countries around it. Gasharovsky sees the 1953 coup as a step toward opening the region up to radicalization and extremism. What the coup did was to take out the moderate, secular element of Iranian politics and enabled radical Islamicists and radical leftists to emerge as key opposition factions in place of it in the 1960s and 70s. Since the 1979 Islamic Revolution, the coup has been invoked by Iranian leaders when outside countries, particularly Western ones, attempt to interfere in the country's politics. Mossadegh has also become an anti-colonial icon in Iran, viewed as a leader who was not afraid to stand against Western interests. Today, some experts believe that a failed coup may have led to a drastically different and far less interventionist U.S. foreign policy in the 1950s and 60s. But it didn't fail. The CIA went on to attempt coups in countries all over the world.
I
So
think
what
if
do you...
I think if it failed, they were failing coups a lot. America fails coups a lot. I
Yeah,
think it would have
because I'm
been
pretty sure, like,
a lump,
yeah,
and
because
they
I'm
would
pretty
have
sure,
kept
like, the
on trying.
beginning after this, yeah, like, because there were attempts, even before this that failed, and even afterwards, they would have kept attempting. I mean,
Hmm.
because they've continued to do so even to this day. Like, I mean, there's been how many different like coup attempts on Venezuela alone since fucking Chavez.
Yeah, which
I think at least
that's
like
not
five or
a
six.
that's not an actual like attempt. That's exceeded.
Well, yeah, now it's succeeded, but but
What's
like I
gonna
said, like the
happen,
very,
right?
well, I mean, it's kind of questionable even if it did because it's the vice president who's acting in Venezuela right now, and so
Yeah.
it's like,
Um.
and she's not exactly pro-Western or
Oh,
anything
she's
either,
not
so it's like,
at all. 100% at all. She's not pro
yeah,
Western. But you know what she is? She's pro shut the fuck up and give America what it wants. Only problem is, Exxon went down there and looked around at what's left of Venezuela's oil and was like, oh, we can't make this work. We can't make this work at all. Like, what the fuck? We didn't really. It would take us 10 years and $30 billion. But Trump is like, now all the oil is coming to us. Most of the oil is worthless. It's all polluted.
yeah,
It's ruined. That's what you do when you stifle a country for decades with its export industry. It won't have any forms of refineries. Why would it? So I wasn't
yeah.
surprised when those guys came back down and were like, "Oh, fuck, this shit hasn't been updated since the 80s." No, it hasn't, and it hasn't been operated since 1999.
Yeah. It's why, like releasing sanctions and embargoes and having like shocker better diplomacy, even if you don't necessarily like, the ideology of things, would be better and actually can end up being better for long-term investment and profits.
Almost
It's
like
just
that
so much
Cuba could
short-term
be a
money, money, money
really
that they just can't
cool
see those
trading
things.
partner that you could work for, with, I should say, and if you'd have just left it be instead of putting all those sanctions on, but now they only have electricity 1 hour a day. Uh,
So many other parts of the world, this area now.
by the way, this guy here, he is a English history teacher who started putting this shit out as a learning aids for his class, and they liked it so much he set up a YouTube channel to put them up. It became so popular that there is a news network in Finland that use him as visual aids.
Oh, nice.
Nowadays called the Islamic Republic of Iran, has gone by many names. By far, the most famous of these names is Persia. This name actually comes from a misunderstanding, in which the administrative region of the Achaemenid Empire, Persis or Pars, was mistaken for the name of the entire empire. This shouldn't be too surprising given that those who gave them this name often named their empires in the same way. Also, in case you're wondering, this was also where the name for the Iranian language Farsi comes from. Now, Persia wasn't the name that the people of the Persian Empire used to describe it, and they often used Arya, Iran or Iranshah to refer to it, which means of the Aryans, the name given to the people who lived there and not, those other guys. Ancient Iran isn't the same as the modern nation of Iran and has been a name used by many peoples from Syria to Afghanistan to describe the area that they lived in. Now, native names for a nation aren't often the ones used by outsiders. Just ask Deutschland or Zhongguo. Unlike Germany or China, the name for Iran has changed in both formal.
Yeah, never forget that, like, the Germans don't call us just France or England or America. They call us their own terms. But imagine if they were the first people to describe a third party to a fourth party. That fourth party forever would call that what they are. That's
It
what we
is,
did when we showed up to Japan and we described the rest of fucking Europe.
yeah.
And then we heard Japan, Nippon. Well, that's what the Chinese, that's what the Japanese call themselves, Nippon. But
Yeah.
Japan is like Nihon, which is the bastardized thing that the traders in China would call those islands. And that's where we picked up. So we kind of have an English bastardization of a Chinese bastardization of what the Chinese call themselves.
It's kind
So,
of just interesting how the language works like that.
oh, there's
We just kind
just
of pick it up.
yeah,
just from like
correspondent.
third-party shit and just passed down over and over again.
I just recently watched Project Hail Mary and read the book. Imagine trying to parse all that shit through an alien language.
Oh my god.
Yeah, how are we ever going to... If we ever have to deal with that, how the fuck are we ever going to pass that shit?
And everyday communication. So when did this change occur? When did the majority of people start calling Persia Iran? Well, the change was a fairly recent one, coming about in 1935 when the Shah of Iran, Reza Shah, demanded that everyone stop calling it Persia and start calling it, well, Iran. Reza Shah was a nationalist in the sense that he wanted to make Iran a more unified, centralized state, something made harder by the fact that everyone outside the nation called it and its people by the wrong name. As such,
also by the fact that the country is riddled with ethnic diversity. A big country isn't... China knows this all too well. America knows this all too well. How close are you to your nearest Hispanic person, you know?
Oh yeah, for real. There's probably one somewhere in this little complex right now.
Fucking Kurdistan. Like
Yeah.
I went to the chipper and he made me chips and fish, and he's from fucking... Originally he was from like Eastern Turkey. Like...
Yeah, which is like where Kurdistan would be if it was a state. It would be like parts of East Turkey, parts of like southwestern Iran, like northeastern Iraq.
Iran, Turkey, Syria, Iraq, and parts of Russia. Well, I think Azerbaijan, and the only chance they ever had for a true independent country was at the end of World War One, but the Arabs were not having that, and neither were the Jews. So
yeah, no one was having that.
How dare the Kurds, who gave you fucking Saladin, would ever be allowed to have their own country? Fuck you! You just create more problems for yourselves.
Reza Shah, whilst at the League of Nations, formally asked all other nations to refer to his kingdom as Iran, and that continuing to call it Persia would be seen as disrespectful. Now, some countries, like the United States and Nazi Germany, were pretty quick at taking on these changes, whereas others were not so quick, and by others I mean pretty much exclusively the United Kingdom. Formally, there were some changes at this point, such as
By the way, you see the way it's includes Northern Ireland when he says United Kingdom?
At this point, such as the United Kingdom.
That's correct. They actually have a voice in Parliament. They don't. They have their own to overlook the whole thing, but the Stormont. But they do. They're an actual member of it. They're not a colony or anything. They're represented in Parliament. The way Algeria was briefly represented in the French Parliament before they got their independence.
The French Parliament, yeah.
Ours was meant to have the whole thing, and we did briefly, but then World War One happened, and then the Civil War happened, and we got our independence. But like, this is correct. This is what the United Kingdom of England. Like, a lot of Americans look at this: England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, plus its territories, which is a vague idea. But just think of all those little islands you see on a map that have like England or Britain or whatever next to it. That includes Ottoman right here. Which I hear is lovely. I need to go and check it out one day.
Formally, there were some changes at this point, such as the Anglo-Persian Oil Company being renamed to the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company. However, at the highest levels of the British government, it was still known as Persia because old habits and all that. British governors and bureaucrats often mistook Iran for simply being a misspelling or variation of Iraq, and so correspondence started to get mixed up. When Reza Shah's successor, Mohammad Reza Shah, came to London, he was originally going to be given the title of Shah of Iran, except that the serving British Prime Minister, Winston Churchill, didn't like Iran's new name and so demanded that it be changed, which it was, much to the annoyance of many Iranian diplomats. As for Mohammad Reza Shah himself, he didn't really care and said both names were perfectly acceptable. That said, momentum was on Iran's side, and by the mid-1970s the name change had finally filtered down to all countries, and the British government was successfully referring to Iran as Iran. And so afterwards, Persia would forever after lose its contemporary meaning and would only be attached to an empire that hadn't existed for roughly 1400 years. I hope you enjoyed this episode.
Yeah, it's wild how one day like Iran was just Iran, you know?
Yeah, and just how it kind of became what it is, to just on the verge of like the Shah, like, funny enough. Which is kind of like another thing I noticed. Like that's why I didn't like get too back far into it.
By the
just
early
because,
1970s,
Iran really started, with like the initial Shah, with Reza Shah, and I was just like, huh.
Well,
I mean, it was just always Persia up until that point.
it was
And even
always.
then, there was still kind of like a little mix of like Persia and Iran up until about, like around the 60s, 70s, when eventually it was just Iran.
Well, if you ask the, well, here's the thing: we would ask the person down in the fucking like, in the dirt hovel villages that made up 90% of Iran, like, what did they think? Are you Iranian? Are you Persian? And they were like, I'm hungry. That's their main thing. Like, they wouldn't give a fuck about A or B. They'd give a fuck about a more important thing, which is, when is the water gonna start flowing again? You go up and you talk to a local official, and they'd be like, "Oh, we'll get that sorted any day now." By the way, have you seen my new fantastic television right out of Japan too? It's really cool. Oh, who bought you that? Oh, those really nice English oil company people. And then all these people out of fucking London will just be smiling with, "Hello."
She's like, cheerio there, lad.
Are you here to rape and pillage too?
Iran is changing fast. Back in 1953, the United States helped the Iranian monarch.
This channel is very cool. It's real-time history. It used to work with Time Ghost, and or it might actually just been rebranded as Time Ghost. I don't know. But the key thing is, they used to do the show World War One week by week, where for the entire length of World War One, every week they would give the updates of the war, and which obviously tied into Iran subtly. And then Indy Nidell and a huge chunk of the team went off, and they did World War Two week by week, and now they're doing Korea. But these guys are doing more obscure ones, basically, and they're kind of filling in the blanks.
With like other events and shit.
Yeah, because it's a big world, and when you have two world wars, the end of numerous empires, there's a lot of politics and a lot of interesting stuff that happens.
Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi in a coup against a pro-parliamentary faction. From then on, the country becomes a key ally in American Cold War strategy. U.S. aid, technical assistance, and weapons flow in, while the Shah tries to modernize Iranian society and develop relations with the West. Shah Pahlavi encourages other countries in the Middle East to do the same, although Saudi Arabia's King Faisal warns him. Your Majesty, I appreciate your advice. May I remind you, you are not the Shah of France. You are not in the Élysée. You are in Iran. Your population is 90% Muslim. Please, don't forget that.
Yeah, he used to be in like Monaco throwing money down at like the baccarat tables with like girls either arm of him.
Yeah.
Posing for
pictures.
pictures.
And also
he was a playboy.
There's actually another thing. Yeah, oh definitely. Like there's actually another little thing. It was one of the little side dudes that I had pulled up on the side, my little collection thing. It was that George Allen, which his middle name is like the most funniest fucking middle name ever, Venabert, or like Venaburn or something like that. But he was ambassador in Iran during this time, and he basically would spend weekends playing tennis with the Shah, like just constantly while he was in exile, like out in Monaco and stuff like that. At least, before, or at least not like in exile, but like when he was like going back and forth, traveling and shit.
And that's, by the way, how you fix a problem of a country that's ravaged with financial inequality. You go out to fucking Monaco and you play tennis with your American handler. Like,
yeah.
I just don't know how to help them. I gave them a crust of bread and they're still angry.
They're still mad at me. I don't understand.
In 1963, the Shah launches the so-called White Revolution, a land reform program including education, women's rights, and urbanization. Oil sales fund the program, and they soar by 670% after Iran refuses to join the Arab oil embargo following the 1973 Arab-Israeli war.
Huge plus for the Iranians because they're not Arabs. They don't have to throw in their lot against Israel. They don't like Israel. I mean, obviously, they're currently firing missiles at each other. Iranians.
Yeah, I
do
mean, at
not
this
like
point, I'd
Israel.
say they probably do I would say probably they do an extent now that there's just such direct involvement with Israel fucking with them. But at this point, yeah, they just didn't give a shit, really.
No, they
They
really didn't.
wouldn't
They were
like them.
like,
They're like,
oh,
yeah, you know, maybe.
that's Quran shit. We're focusing on money shit, and money shit is good. Yeah, it's good for the upper middle class. That sort of complacent middle ground that gets a little bit of trickle down. If it helped everyone, the revolution wouldn't happen. But it happened.
Yep.
So there had to be. Now here's the beauty of it. You look at these things like literacy rates have doubled. That's a really good thing. But Islamic fundamentalism does not like the idea of multiple literacy rates or say women being able to read at all. They don't need to read. They're bound to the home. I mean, just look at what the Taliban are doing right now, what they were doing before 9/11, and what they're doing now.
Yeah.
Which shows if one thing, Americans really have to look at Afghanistan and be like, oh, we're not all that shit that we told ourselves we were. No, you really weren't. You really weren't.
Even in the Vietnam War and shit, it's like we weren't.
No.
We had our moment in the Sun before too, but that was it.
Afghanistan may one day die, but it was not the fucking Americans that wiped it out. Yeah,
Definitely not.
For sure.
By late 1975, literacy rates have doubled to 32%, forming a growing middle class of salaried workers and small business-owning families. Women can vote, and officials develop more secular forms of law. But Iran is not a democracy.
But I think that we have just taken what is good for this country. And I even sometimes wonder if this multi-party system is good for those who have it elsewhere. But for us, it seems that what we have done now is the best because, as I said, just go in the streets and question anybody. You will see the whole country has joined the movement.
The Shah is a...
Everyone that we allow you to film says that the government is going great. Wow.
Pretty much our great approved state propaganda is saying that everyone loves it, shows that it's great. So we don't need democracy.
Fucking wave. If you have to be welcome, just think of how many countries have you been to?
Just Iceland, actually. I'm hoping that eventually I'll go to Vancouver, BC at some point, or maybe Mexico City, but that's not in the cards
both
yet.
Of those things bring your appetite. Though, I will say for VC, you are going to need to also bring your wallet. It's expensive. But you did grow up in the Pacific Northwest, so you are prepared for those sort of prices. So I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
The rest of us kind of scratch our head, but you're kind of like, bitch, please. I'm well versed. As for Mexico City, my advice, go to anywhere that the locals are eating.
Oh, yeah. Well, I actually know a guy that is in like a ska punk band that will sometimes with his band go to Mexico City for shows at like ska fest that they have out there. And he tells me and knows different people and bands out there from Mexico City that like know all some different spots and shit. So he kind of knows these places, and I'm just like, oh shit, if I end up going out there, I'm gonna have to let him know. Be like, can you be like my unofficial,
chaperone?
like not. Yeah, well, maybe not chaperone, but like at least like give me a list of like some spots, and I could look it up and just kind of make a map of where I can go and just like go day by day. Because I would definitely want to check out, you know, like it's just kind of like a rule for anywhere.
after
I
the
would say it's like
show.
for anywhere to go where like locals like to go to. It's like
Yeah.
get cool with a local or two and just ask what's the good local spots to go to,
Well,
and
hold on,
from
hold on.
there,
No, no. First of all, that's the wrong question, and I know this from Mysterious Coconuts because I asked him the very same question about New York, and he said, "Listen, everyone will tell you that everywhere's pizza is the best in New York. What you need to ask is the worst pizza and avoid that." And in which case, he was like, "Dave's." So you first of all need to ask yourself where to avoid. So just ask where to avoid, and from there, make your plans, not the other way around.
fair, yeah,
Yeah.
that's actually a good way to look at it. Yeah, because at least when I was in Chicago, not to derail too hard, but me and my buddy were talking to one of the locals there while we were waiting to get some weed in the line at the dispo when it opened, and we were kind of a mixture of saying like where's some cool spots and what to avoid because we didn't want to go to like tourist traps or shitty places. We kind of emphasized like
Tourist
we don't
traps
want
can
tourist traps or
justify its own existence. Like, for example, if you find a bagel place that's overflowing in New York, it's probably a really good bagel place.
oh yeah, no, for real. Yeah, I mean that's true. Like if you're just wandering around and find some spots, the places that are like the most packed, you're like, that's probably like a spot to check out.
Yeah. At least poke your
And
head in.
and it
Check the
is.
prices.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Oh yeah.
But no, like you'll have a great time. But I want to talk to you after the show because I know somebody who's setting up, and I shit you not, a punk protest rebel, possibly ska record label.
Oh shit.
And I
That's pretty
think
cool.
you two would be really cool chatting to each other.
Hmm.
All right,
Yeah, plus at least here
I
at
did not
Harlem local
realize that
scene.
you could actually like reach out. And trust me when I say this, they're setting up every sort of connection, feedback. I guarantee you they'd appreciate it. So anyway,
Oh yeah, definitely.
yeah. So remind me after the show. You noggled my noggle. So let's go.
Monarch positioning himself as a paternal figure. He centralizes power by appointing loyal but usually indecisive ministers and outlawing political parties. In 1975, all adult men must join the Shah.
His head is. You could fly
I know,
airplanes
like
off.
I know there's like square heads, but he really emphasizes square
He's
head.
not
His
quite
is
flat
straight
top
like
from Dick Tracy, but he's up there.
I know. It's like he, I'm like, because in comparison, even to the guy that's in between him and that lady there, like he's kind of got it a little bit, but he's still got roundness. You just straight don't. It's just literally flat.
If you shaved him bald, how much of a circumference do you think you're going for here? I don't think it'd be very high. I think it's literally
It,
doot.
I know. I think it literally. I think outside of the little hair that he does have there, that's like a comb over. I think that is the curvature. I mean,
Rastahi's party, while Iran's secret police, the Savak,
that tiara was I do believe more expensive than the Queen of England's tiara.
suppress underground parties like the National Front and the Communist Today.
Again,
While
though, look how they're dressed up. That's fucking drip. I would not want to wear that shit knowing that it costs many children the ability to read and write.
White revolution benefits secular urbanites, others resisted. Rapid modernization brings in...
too. I was saying it looks very Napoleonic too, with like all the like embroiderment and everything.
Imperial vibe.
Yeah.
And Napoleon kind of set the tone because the British always tried to downplay after the Georges, the ones that you guys rebelled against. Victoria kind of set the tone for this sort of suppressed elegance, but up to her. When you talk about ermine cloaks, these things would be bigger than my head. They'd be over behind me, and they'd be kind of like, yes, quite indeed. Like with a cane that would be riddled with jewels. As they were kind of like, yeah, I'm going to pose in this incredibly ornate outfit. Why? Because I can fucking afford it. Why? You got a problem with that, peasant? That's
you little peasant boy who can barely afford his bread.
And then after Victoria, who showed up, and went like, one must be a little more decorum-based. Why? Because if not, they'll kill us. So, which is fair. I mean, they're still around to this day, so at least they're doing something right, I suppose.
Yeah.
All the other royals looked at that and was like, okay, I guess after the czars were all murdered by the communists, we have to pull back on the decadence. How do we do that? How about less is more? And now you've got embroidery. Now you've got uniforms. Now you've got military uniforms that exist already that are just ornate. Now you've entered the realm of the Shah, which is just the uniform of a general of his army pushed to 11. So it makes sense. It doesn't change the fact that you can still look at that and be like, the outfit costs more than my entire life. Yes, probably more than you anyway.
Inflation, corruption, income inequality, social tensions, and inefficiency. As rural workers move to cities for better pay, many discover that they've rarely benefited from the Shah's policies. One villager from Aliabad complains. We have nothing in this country. We see that others are rich and have 7- or 8-story homes, and we live in tents. It takes us 1 or 2 months to get something done in government offices, and the other side had good connections and is able to ruin us. If they attack us and fight us and...
Nepotism in a monarchy? Never heard of such a thing. You might as well have nepotism in a democracy, or a republic, or a federalized republic, or anything. Almost like nepotism fucking is a disease.
we go to court.
It's always
The
inherently
court does
seen as the problem.
Absolutely. Like, I actually can't think of a government that isn't susceptible to nepotism in some way, shape, or form. Because don't forget, it isn't just your relatives, it's also your friends, too.
Yeah, it's just that as well. I mean, because even like for the Roosevelts, for example, even though like Teddy and FDR were like from different times, that's in a way kind of partly nepotism, just on the virtue of like the
Kennedys?
kind of dynasty. Yeah, Kennedys too. I mean, I feel like in a way, to a certain level, you can't really totally escape it to a degree, I suppose, but it just depends on how much you can put that in check in a way to not make it actually like corruptible in a sense. Because nepotism doesn't necessarily have to be bad. Like, having that
It
friend
isn't
connection to
bad
get
if
you like that good
everyone who
job or
gets
something.
elected also happens to be really fucking good at their job. But
Well, yeah.
like how often now that opens up the idea of like now you have a divine bloodline, where these people are just genetically built to be superior. That's entering Ventrue territory from Vampire the
And
Masquerade.
even like borderline like ethnic supremacy kind of shit too,
Yes.
then at that point. Yeah.
Like we uplifted the fucking gobbledygooks out there in blah 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 land. They didn't like clean water and soft beds. Where were those soft beds? Mostly in work camps. If they left, we shot them. But still, they were building for their children, which was to be our servants in our giant mansions that they helped build. But the important thing.
Yeah.
You go to South Africa and you talk to a white person out there, and that's kind of how their attitude is. Oh, God. I don't like this world I live in.
nothing because they are in cahoots with them.
What a wonderful world.
Officials reinvest much of Iran's oil income back into industry or the military, but little of Iran's 1972 to 74 oil boom goes to the countryside. The Shah's reforms split Iranian society into distinct groups, and as unemployment and corruption increase following a crash in oil prices in 1975, some begin to oppose his central rule. Leftist intellectuals opposing royal absolutism and U.S. interference joined the National Front.
Hey, look at that name. He returns.
Or today, while more radical leftists joined the Marxist-Leninist Fedayin-e-Khalq or the Islamic Marxist Mujahideen-e-Khalq. Both militant organizations...
Islamic Marxist. You got it. It's like when you...
That is quite an ideology. Islamic Marxist.
Which is kind of what Gaddafi was going for until he dropped that and he was like, yeah, okay. In reality, whoever I want in charge is in charge.
Yeah.
So there is this absolutely insane mod called Kaiserreich for Hearts of Iron.
Oh, I love that mod.
Oh, you already know it. See, you already
Oh yeah, I
know
actually have a few flags and shit, that I bought from like their
Oh,
store
really?
stuff too.
Okay, then. So you know
Yeah.
all well about communist, Catholic communism,
Yeah. It is like a weird. It is
where
a
the
very weird
Pope
ideology thing.
dictates the means of production.
Production. It's the most wildest shit. I've never
It's the
done that particular
same
one.
thing.
I know.
It's
It says
so
just Islamo
fucking
communism.
online coded. Except this didn't exist. The online didn't exist. These people really put together this idea of
It
workers
just
of the
shows
world
that if
unite under Allah. Okay, I think you're missing a
Inshallah
major
for the
issue of
workers.
what Karl Marx was talking about, which was atheism.
It just kind of shows that if we had the internet and like these games, like forwarded back in time to these people, that there would be the same like nerded out
Oh
motherfuckers
my god.
that would be playing that
You
game and
know
shit,
that in the Senate,
larping.
there would be people who watched a lot of podcasts talking about whether or not we should declare war on Japan after the attack on Pearl Harbor. And they just so all happen to be big investors in Hawaii and big investors in Japan, Japanese like goods and shit, and they would be like, well, we could, but you have to understand. I was watching some hard-hitting podcasts last night about how Japan is actually an elegant and respectable country. Maybe these people should take over over Southeast Asia. And then
Just debate lore their way through shit.
oh
Oh my
my
god.
god, McCarthy era set in the fucking internet, the blood sports era, where McCarthy wouldn't have gotten in trouble because everyone was drunk.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my god. Oh, I could just only imagine what that would
Oh
look
my
like.
god,
Holy
Paul
shit.
Zigo at his prime versus McCarthy over communism.
Oh my god.
That would
Oh,
have been
that shit would be the most
glorious.
fieriest shit.
You're just
Oh, that
a
would be
wobbly,
glorious.
aren't you? You're damn right, motherfucker, and I know where you live.
You're goddamn right, you fucking bastard
And then
imperialist
he just takes a
shit.
massive hit out of his vape pen. His 40s vape pen.
Yeah, just shaking the mic, going, you piece of fuck.
Oh, damn, this hiccup's gonna be there for a while. Alright.
Conduct small-scale attacks and assassinations. Other Iranian intellectuals remain independent of major organizations, partly to avoid Savak's attention. The most influential opponents are religious clerics. Many oppose the White Revolution's secularism as well as corruption, foreign influence, and the Shah's central power. As religious figures, they also partly escape Savak's repressions and combine political messages into sermons. The most notable anti-Shah cleric is Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini.
A man who is literally Uncle Grumpy from Grumpy Mountain. There is a story that he saw a bunch of children playing football in the street, and he literally burst the ball in front of them.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
because it's not
I mean, I
Islamic.
knew he was like,
They need to go home and read the Quran.
yeah, I mean, I remember reading like a little quote of when he officially like set foot back on Iran. Like a reporter asked him like, "How do you feel?" And he literally was just like, "Nothing." He literally was just like, "I feel nothing. I'm just a grumpy old dude." It
Bin
really
Laden,
does look like that. Like
growing
in
up,
most pictures I
had
see him, he always
on
does look
his
grumpy.
wall.
Yeah, Bin Laden.
Bin Laden had him on his wall because he was an example of what to do as a Muslim man. Don't forget, I've read Bin Laden's like interviews, and I've seen, well, everyone's read his fucking computer after the fact, but Bin Laden was obsessed with this motherfucker. He didn't agree with him on like a religious standpoint because he wasn't supporting of Wahhabism. But this is like some obscure shit. This is like a hardcore fundamentalist Filipino Catholic. versus like a Baptist born again, like South Georgia Klansman. Both of you are
Yeah.
scumbags, and you're using the both of you are scumbags and are using the cross to promote your evil. But at the same time, you have a lot in common, but you'd kill each other if you saw each other. You know?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Since the early 1960s, he's openly opposed the Shah, who exiles the
Oh, for
Ayatollah.
that same reason, Bin Laden was also a huge fan of John Wayne. He thought him as one of the ultimate men.
Yeah, that was another thing at least I knew about him. Like, he had a weird respect towards him, and also just kind of like Western action movies and shit like
Yeah,
that
he
too. I
thought
think he
that was
also liked like
the last place in our history where men could be men. In other
yeah,
words, he was a MGTOW. He was a manosphere
he really kind of
motherfucker.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
He
even
played
like as you have like
anime
a bunch of anime
games. He
and
played
porn.
MMO Korean
I
gotcha
know,
games. Oh my god.
which proves to my point that these motherfuckers literally would be just online form larpers that are just gooning in their little, well, I guess
How
this case like little
many
compound.
these fuckers who think that the West is run by queer people would have sex with young boys? I'm gonna say at least two of them, maybe three.
At least.
Yeah.
If you're like that dude, they're on the right, probably.
Oh, look at him eyeing him. Yeah, look at him eyeing him up like,
I know,
Daddy,
yeah, that's what I mean. He just got
tell
that
them
look.
how it is, Daddy.
Yeah, I know, for real.
To Iraq. Described as a revolutionary traditionalist,
Respect to the
Khomeini
mustache
claims
there.
democratic
Hell
republican
yeah.
ideals within an Islamic context. These appeal to young rural men from traditional backgrounds who now have formal education and work in cities. Those who are out in society more and go into Shiraz are for Khomeini, but the old men who haven't studied and don't go into the city much aren't. There's a difference between those.
So you're meaning that they read the Quran? No. Reading the Quran is all that Muhammad wanted. Well, actually, he didn't want you because the Quran wasn't codified till after his death. But after his death came a bunch of laws. And those laws are the big split between Sunni and Shia and all, like the Druze, for example. Not the Jews, the Druze, beginning with D. And the Kharjites and people like that. There's a lot of smaller groups. When ISIS finds any of these groups, they fucking devour them. They annihilate them. They hate their guts. But it all boils down to, after Muhammad's death, they all sat down. And Muhammad, a man who said, don't break up the faith like the Christians and the Jews do, and the Zoroastrians, he would have used a different term, they went and they broke up the faith. And here it is, proving once and for all faiths are doomed to be split, especially after the death of the founder.
Yeah, with sectarianism and shit.
So,
Like, they always are doomed to be split because, there's always going to be this sense of, like, this is the real truth. I actually know what it is. I know what they wanted to believe. And kind of twisting it.
Life of Brian did that with the fucking gourd and the shoe and all that,
Yeah.
It's like, it's insane. Like, I am speaking the one truth. No, me.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like when it comes to like religion and spiritualism, like I think it's just one of those things that will just never overcome in the virtue that, everyone's gonna have like their sense of what that truth is, whether it's organized and sectarified, like, with organized religion, or just on that literal individual level. It's just one of those things I think you just are, or at least as humanity, we're just sort of fundamentally aren't going to be able to escape. I mean, I think we could escape this in a sense, and if like we don't have to let it like destroy us in nations and have holy wars like what's going on now.
But I think if we pass that point, we've already passed the fundamental issue of religion, which is that it promises a truth that cannot be quantified then and now. And there's only two ways of doing that. One, everyone becomes at least agnostic, if not atheist. And the other is if there's an actual new, like, holy saint who defies the laws of physics. Like, if there is literally a miracle man who appears in, like, out of the blue, and can do things that no one can explain, and everything that they say comes true. Well, fuck. Now you've entered into the realm of, like, oh, maybe there is spiritualism. Maybe there is like supernatural shit. But
Yeah, now
until
there's
we
like an
see
extra
that, and we
level of
haven't seen that in a long while, fuck you, Mormons. That does not count. That does
Oh, my
not
friend
count,
Logan would not
Mormons.
like that.
No. Notice how he always
Yeah,
had
my
to
friend
leave
Logan
the
would not like
room,
that.
read into a
I mean, he's
fucking
not more,
hat.
but oh my god, he would read that and be like, "Oh, hold up now, but."
I have
He would be
all
like,
these
"Hold on
holy
about that."
seals that you can only see through a hat that only I can see. Dum da dum dum dum.
I'm going.
I love the best part of that was when she goes like, "Well, that's really stupid. Smart, but why would he
Smart.
lie? Dum dum dum
Dum
diddy
dum
dum."
dum dum dum.
Those whose level of thinking is lower, who are illiterate and haven't seen much of the situation,
Bless
and
him.
those whose level of thinking is higher.
There
Khomeini
with
also
Ja
benefits
right
from
now.
clerics' historical role as leaders of popular resistance movements. By early 1978, economic crisis and political agitation lead to protests. When security forces react and kill some protesters, the funerals draw huge crowds. The Shah seems genuinely surprised by events which are spontaneous and contradict his self-perception as a beloved figure. The US is also
See that Ben Shapiro not Ben Shapiro, Charlie Kirk supporters, the people who want to make Charlie Kirk into a martyr. You can't unless it's grassroots. There's no such thing. All you want to do is just for us to remember somebody who, like, was either didn't matter and you want to promote them, or actively might have deserved to die, like Charlie Kirk, who deserved to die. Like, they're desperate to make him like a martyr for their cause, but no one's buying it. It's
Right, yeah.
it's
It's only
all
really like that
astroturfed.
loyal little like crew of people that, feel that
Well,
way.
they'll do
But most people,
anything. They'll always do anything.
well, of course, yeah. Yeah, because like most people, even if they did care in a sense of like, well, no one needs, he shouldn't have died, this and that, blah blah blah, because they didn't like know about his beliefs and what he, like
Oh no, a lot of
advocated
them
for
do
and
know
shit.
about his beliefs, but still
Well,
say
yeah,
he
at this
shouldn't have
point
been
they do
killed that
now.
way.
Yeah, right,
Which my
yeah,
response
and
to
like
that
at this,
is, I mean, he wanted that to happen to other people, and he was a Christian, so, I mean,
and
reap what you
yeah, he
sow,
kind.
motherfucker. It's in the Bible.
I mean, yeah, that's like legit how I feel about it. I mean, I don't necessarily think he like outright, should have happened, so to
I
speak. But
don't
it's
think it
like
should have
I,
happened the
I'm going,
way that it did, but
I'm.
I'm
It's
not
hard to like
sad.
defend,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's just kind of hard to defend the guy and like, yeah, he shouldn't have Lance. Like he literally advocated for people like me even to be like, nah, fuck you, you're a queer, you need, you should be in a
Oh,
camp or
he
something.
would be so sucking Trump's cock right now. Him and maybe Nick Fuentes would be at loggerheads right now. But Nick Fuentes lost a lot of respect. Candace Owens would still be a good little toady. Actually, no, she had already broken off from the wider MAGA self implosion.
Yeah, like a lot of them now are actually kind of starting to split at this
I
rate.
know,
Where
isn't
like
it great?
I know it's beautiful, and Trump's literally melting down and like had one of his like deranged
You
posts
all
where, like,
betray me. I fed up with this world.
they, it's like I was just spread the lies that the Saint victims I did not care about until just now.
Lies, lies, and slander.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
Melania comes out and says that she needs people to look into the Epstein files. For starters, no one was talking about the Epstein files, and two, this is important. Trump's government, his cabinet, said that the Epstein files are closed, and yet now he's talking about now someone, his own wife, is saying, let's have Congress look into it.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it like I think there's like a little bit of two things. One is I think kind of a little like an A and B for the first one, where Melania is either like kind of being forced to do this, because the administration, which kind of goes into B a little bit, or at least the second part, where the Iran war is going so bad, they're using the Epstein files to
I've
distract
heard,
themselves
yeah.
from it again. Yeah, which I don't know if that's like completely true, but I think there is maybe a little bit. But the other part is I
She
think
was one
Melania's
of the
also maybe
victims.
trying to get out ahead of stuff too, because she's directly, involved in some level, but I don't think in a way of
What, you
being
think
like a
that she's the
perpetrator.
first to jump out of the sinking ship from the top level?
Yeah, I think so. I think she's just trying to maybe
But
get
she
out
couldn't
ahead of
have,
certain
because Trump
things.
already knew she was going to say it, and there's no chance in hell that Trump would have been okay with her just saying
Which
whatever the
maybe
fuck she
also
wanted.
like, hey, well, if you go into you shut the fuck about this, you will stay this instead. Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
I guess
like
we'll really.
this just made it look weirder, and frankly did not do the thing that, like, no one was. Everyone's talking about Iran and oil prices. No one was talking. They got what they wanted. Hell, I saw people saying the Iranian nightmare is currently because they want people to ignore the Epstein shit. And now they're saying that this Epstein shit is stopping people for the Iranian nightmare. Both of which are true and false. Like, I think that there's so many different parties in the White House all screaming at each other to do things, and Trump is not in control anymore. He has not been in control
Oh,
for a
100%, dude.
while.
Yeah.
Um,
I
so
that I think that's what really ultimately was what's happening. It's just like he's not in
I
any
mean,
real
Kash
control
Patel
anymore.
was probably sweating buckets when he heard Melania say that, as if he wasn't already
Oh,
dealing with the fact that his own passwords were hacked.
oh yeah. I mean, he's probably like shitting bricks now at this point,
Oh
wondering how to
yeah,
like solve
one
that problem.
slicing after the other after another, and he didn't even have much in the way of a He had no reputation. He was a fucking podcaster. It'd be like if the Irish government came to me and said, "Oh, you're interested in history? Yeah. Now you're going to be in charge of our relationship with Britain over Northern Ireland."
Yeah, I'd be
Okay.
like, what?
Why? Well, because you said that one thing that one time. Oh, yeah, I sure did. You know who else did? Fucking everyone. You know, like, maybe get someone with a little high. Maybe set the bar a little higher than just being
Yeah, like
someone
maybe I have a little
online.
bit more better credentials than just random
Some
fucking
guy who's
podcaster. You know what I
half
mean?
fueled by fucking cider and chips talking about Northern Ireland.
Surprised. They lack information about Iran or Khomeini and considered the Shah's position stable. In August, riots erupt in major cities, coupled with attacks on symbols of modernization and foreign influence. On August 19th, Islamic extremists set fire to the Cinema Rex, killing up to 470 people. But many Iranians believe the hated Savak is responsible. Clashes between protesters and
Which shows that, like, it's wild that, like, the Islamic fundamentalists were blaming the fascists. Like, that's saying a lot at this point now.
security forces soon multiply, especially at mosques and colleges. Student Mohammed
I think a lot
Amini
of it just kind of
struggles
shows
with
that
police
like Islamic like fundamentalism wasn't really the same thing as we see it today. It was probably just more of like an isolated kind of like ideology in the sense that it wasn't
Do
trying
you
to do
know
mass
where
expansion.
modern Islamic fundamentalism comes from?
I honestly actually don't myself personally. I just know there was kind of
So
like a
Muhammad
difference
did
in it.
say, "Conquer the world through the word or the sword." So, and that was not up for debate because he himself took over the entire Saudi peninsula. He was going to invade. He invaded Jerusalem, took it over, and all that shit from the
Yeah,
Byzantines. If you know who the Byzantines are, Eastern Europe and all
Eastern
that shit.
Romans. Yeah,
Yeah. So you know better than you know better than a lot of people who I talk to about this, so that's good. So Islamic fundamentalism went through numerous dealings with the West, and for the most part of their history, the West was the weaker of the
uh-oh.
two. What?
Oh, you just had like a little bit of a and then just kind of for like 2 seconds, then you came right back
Oh,
in.
okay. Um, so Islamic fundamentalism went like this. For centuries, they were trying to take over the territory for their own reasons, and they were pushed back by groups for the same reasons. And by the time of Napoleon, the Ottoman Empire was a second rate power. It hadn't outright been declared that. But with the discovery of America, the West didn't need to go through them to get their spices and what have you from China. So they would go and ignore that, and also all that new stuff that America brought. So the Ottomans felt a little bit left out. Well, they were. Napoleon shows up and invades Egypt. And the Mamluks, do you know who the Mamluks were?
I'm familiar with them. I don't know like too much of the history, but I'm kind of familiar a little bit.
Slave army who ran
Yeah.
Egypt.
Yeah, there was kind of like a slave army, like kind of kingdom in around the Egyptian area. Like I don't really know 100%.
They paid lip service to the Ottomans. They on the maps
Yeah,
you've seen them, but
they
they
were
were
kind of like a
basically
little
their
bit
own
of a
country. Yeah.
yeah.
They were considered the finest horsemen in the world, and Napoleon showed up, and at the Battle of the Pyramids, fucking annihilated them, and then occupied Egypt. Every Muslim philosopher who was already dealing with the fact that the West had gone through the motions of being a bunch of like the peasants that you see from a Monty Python sketch, to like the Renaissance where they're painting shit in the Sistine Chapel and like calculating the distance between the Earth and the Sun and all that shit, and discovering old Roman and Greek shit, which the Muslims were doing before that. Now had to
like the golden age of Islam.
They blinked
and, shit,
and they missed it, and these peasants had turned into like these fucking weapons of war that they couldn't compete with. Now they managed to take Egypt back and all that because of the British. And then they kept on taking money from the British and the French to build the Suez Canal and other things like that, and so did the Persians, and that's eventually what led to the whole oil thing. And pretty soon, the same thing happened here as what happened with the Ottomans. They were wondering, how did we get to this? How do we get to a point where we, the dominant force of this world, are second-rate people? And that's when conservatism kicks in. Wahhabism starts up. Do you know what Wahhabism is?
Yeah, Wahhabi. It's like the most like extreme, quote unquote, like far right sects of Islam. It's like the most literalist like kind of interpretation from what I understand.
The idea behind it
it's basically
is
what like ISIS believes and shit.
ISIS took Wahhabism and ran with it to the point where Al Qaeda and ISIS will shoot each other on sight. They absolutely like they think that the only way for Islam to be restored is for you to be a true Muslim exactly as it is written, 100% written down, A, B, C, D. It's called legalism, which, interestingly enough, the far right of the far extremists of the Jews also do with the Talmud, the ultra Zionists guys, the ones who don't even talk on the Sabbath, because you could do work with your mouth, so rather you just gesture for what you want. You can't answer your phone. A lot of if you've ever been around rabbis, the more literal ones of them don't answer phones on the day, which that's what they call it, the day, and that's how it all kind of like unfurled. These preachers would sit down in Mecca, Medina, and say the West has gained power because we have become lax and we let them. We took money from them, and in exchange we let them grow up, and now they're coming at us. Well, they weren't entirely wrong in the form that we were coming at them, but we didn't give a fuck if they were Muslim, Jews, Hindu, whatever. We wanted their fucking raw resources for the Industrial Revolution and everything that came after. Like, they keep thinking we are Christian, they are Muslim. We are money, they are Muslim. That's how it is.
Yeah,
that's how we've changed. One day we woke up, it was like,
but it's always about the money.
It is. And that's what the upper crust of their society is like too. Like, you get to the Saudis and you get to the King of Jordan, you get to the Shah, and no one gives a fuck if you're a Muslim, a Jew, a fucking Hindu. You care how big your house is, how many rooms it has, how much money at any time you can go to buy off a piece of art. If you want to walk into a room and want to buy something, including the room itself, the power of just being able to say, I'll take it. That's what these fuckers fight for. And it's so destructive.
It is. It's like, how much can I absorb with the finite resources around to maximize my status? Damn everything else, pretty much.
I always remember Che Guevara talking about this. He was interviewed once, and he spoke fluent English, and he said, America has this bizarre idea that one day everyone's going to have palaces. Do you need a palace? Do you want a palace? Because I've been inside palaces, and after a certain point, it kind of wears off. And he's right, I've been inside palaces too. I've been inside at least 3 palaces in my life, and many mansions. And I'll tell you now, as cool as they are, you know what really stands out? When you walk into a room that has the personal touch of the person you're talking to. Because then you can talk to the person as they describe the room, and at that point you can do that with any amount of money. Because it's just a matter of will to make that shit happen. You can talk to a pauper who's completely, with a little fucking toothbrush, paintbrush, renovated their whole bedroom. To be like, look at this, look at that. I've had more fun in a fucking council estate flat than I've had in mansions. And that's probably one reason why I've never been like obsessed with wealth and all that shit. Don't get me wrong. Like, share, and subscribe. It helps a motherfucker out. But I don't get that much cash. I don't get that much views. And I'm never going to sell out over that. And I respect anyone who does, up until a point where they start becoming a part of the problem.
100%, yeah.
Like, if someone needs to go off and do that, that's cool. But frankly, I respect someone who gets all that money in front of them and goes, fuck you, more. Like, I've always respected people who've had, like, the offer put in front of them, especially when they need it. And they're like, fuck you, I'll survive. And they survive. And they get on with their day. A little more shoddier, a little more dimmer than others. Oh, fucking
Especially when they, like, do it in a sense of, like, hey, I'm going to do it from my own accord. It's like, I'm not going to just take, like, I'm not going to take, like, the free
thing. That's why religion doesn't have a moral center on morals. It's our own personal consensus of what is right and wrong. And it's usually very simple things. It's the whole Occam's razor thing. Tell the truth is a great example. Try to help others in need. Today, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I went through the fucking rain to go and give a friend in need a bit of money. And then I went on and did my days. Did I have to do that? No. I was seriously hovering over the phone. Should I call them? Shouldn't I? No, they needed it. And they should. They should always come to me. I never want to be someone who isn't going to be seen as someone who can't help out if they can help it. Like, you need...
Right, yeah.
You need to be a sort of person who can stand up. It's the shield wall mentality, What's the point of you holding your own shield if the person to the next to right of you isn't going to hold it too?
Yeah, if they're not going to bother holding it up, then it all just collapses.
Right? That's the power of socialism.
At a teacher's college. The police took up positions and attacked us. We fought them with our rocks. A violent struggle broke out, but we weren't an equal match for them. We were forced to retreat. When we went back into the college yard, I noticed the dean was watching from his window and laughing. At that very moment, a student threw a rock at him. The window shattered.
Ha!
The Shah orders the military not to use significant force, but the response is uneven. Some ministers encourage the Shah to make reforms, including legalizing political opposition and adopting the Islamic calendar. Pahlavi also appoints new Prime Minister Jafar Sharif Imami to oversee a government of reconciliation. But the reforms satisfy few opponents, and released political prisoners join and lead opposition groups. On September 7th, the Shah orders martial law, which bans public gatherings and imposes a curfew. The next day, protesters, many of whom have likely not yet heard the martial law announcement, gather in Jaleh Square, where government troops fire on them. They kill 68 and wound 205, but some opposition sources claim up to 5,000 casualties. The event, known as Black Friday, causes confusion amongst the authorities, as both ministers and local commanders hesitate to apply martial law. There's also fraternization between protesters and troops. Most soldiers are conscripts from rural areas and are receptive to opposition clerics' religious messages of solidarity or threats to excommunicate soldiers. Most of the army stays loyal, but Chief of the General Staff, General Abbas Garabaghi, is worried and addresses the troops. At this critical point in our history, I want to urge you to maintain discipline, unity, and obedience to command. Be aware of ill-wishers and agitators who wish to split your ranks. It is important not to yield to emotional factors and continue to support the legitimate government.
What a very dodgy statement. Your morals might tell you not to open fire into that crowd of children, but the government says it's okay. Like,
Just what a absurd, like, contradiction of morals. Like, what the fuck?
meanwhile, your officer who's telling that is shoving thousands of dollars into a suitcase with his mistress.
Throughout late 1978, large protests run parallel with religious marches. Although some ministers advise banning them, the Shah allows them to avoid further enraging protesters. But it doesn't work, and the entire Iranian free media and institutions like the central bank now favor the opposition. The Shah tries to position himself as leader of a revolution against corrupt officials, while simultaneously announcing a new military cabinet in early November. Henry Precht, the US State Department's Iran country director, notes the inconsistency. The Shah was following a bifurcated policy. On the one hand, the regime had shot a lot of people. On the other hand, he tried to appeal to the population by appointing a new prime minister. It was a confusing time if you were not an Iranian. Is he soft or is he hard? In fact, he was both, groping for a solution. The US reaction is muted. Even before the revolution, President Jimmy Carter cooled relations with Iran due to human rights issues. But Iran is still a vital Cold War ally and receives large amounts of sophisticated weapons like F-14 aircraft. Although some US officials want Carter to support the Shah, some State Department figures advise reaching out to Khomeini's entourage, especially Dr. Ebrahim Yazdi, a naturalized US citizen. The inconsistent US response leads the Shah to conclude that they're working with Khomeini against him, which isn't true. So the Shah and his government can't get the unrest under control in 1978, and things soon escalate in 1979. In January, the Shah appoints Prime Minister Shapur Bakhtiar to create a new civilian government. Bakhtiar belongs to the banned National Front, so the Shah hopes the new government will calm the protests. Bakhtiar orders political prisoners released, relaxes censorship and martial law, and suggests disbanding Savak and negotiating with Khomeini. Khomeini refuses, and Bakhtiar concludes the Shah's presence is blocking any deal. He encourages the Shah to leave Iran. Even as the military insists, the monarch's presence is the only thing maintained.
I was thinking, oh my god, fucking Groucho Marx over here, what the hell?
Holy shit. Whoa.
Get that man a cigar, stat.
Yeah, seriously.
Maintaining the morale of the army. On January 16th, though, the Shah leaves Iran for Morocco. He says it's for health reasons, which is partly true, as he does have leukemia, though this is not public knowledge yet. Henry Precht suggests the diagnosis does play a role. In retrospect, we know now that he knew he was a sick man, and what he wanted more than anything was to pass on to his son a viable monarchy. He wanted his son to inherit the throne. He was afraid if he slaughtered people in the streets and turned over to a teenager a situation he could not handle, the dynasty would be swept aside.
Well, guess what, motherfucker?
When the Shah leaves, protests grow and soldiers defect en masse, up to 12,000 a day. The Air Force, with many educated technicians, is especially rebellious. Hundreds go on hunger strikes against the closing of Tehran airport, which blocks Khomeini's return to Iran. As protesters clash with demoralized Air Force troops guarding the airport, Bakhtiar reopens it. On February 1st, Khomeini returns to Tehran from Paris, where he had gone after being expelled from Iraq. About 1 million Iranians take to the street.
You can imagine he hated every aspect of Paris from the moment he landed. Like all these women just going around being drunk all day, voicing their opinion.
Oh, I bet he was just, yeah, I'm pretty sure it probably
He was
helped him out a
Grumpy
lot
Mountain
with
and Grumpy
people.
Lane the whole time. He was just... They
Yeah,
shouldn't be
just
doing
mad.
that.
To welcome him. He quickly establishes the Provisional Revolutionary Government and takes over government ministries, including foreign affairs, finance, and justice. Bakhtiar attempts to incorporate Khomeini's shadow cabinet into his own, but Khomeini doesn't cooperate. On February 11th, loyal Imperial Guard troops clash with rebellious Air Force cadets at Doshan Tepe Air Base. Armed civilians join the cadets and capture a machine gun factory.
Alright, before we go on any further into this video, we should wrap it up after this, but we should come back for a part 2. You were right. But
Yeah.
it's just, you hit, this episode hit the same night where these are the first drinks, frankly, I've had in a couple of weeks, and my tolerance has dropped to nothing. I'm a little jarred, and I have more drinking to do this evening, which is, I'm not shitting you, in about an hour. So on stream, so I have to get some dinner down me.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, so we will have a part 2. I would have it as next week, next month, but that is already been slid. So I guess week after next, and at that point, you can fill all the history from basically the Iranian Revolution up to today.
Yeah, which actually would be perfect because that's when, like, Israel has, like, slowly but surely gets their involvement in, there's the Iran-Iraq war, like, and all these other little elements that we kind of glanced over a bit, but, end up being a lot more in detail about,
More importantly, I won't be drunk.
how now Iran built up to how it, got to where it is with the, with the Ayatollahs now and shit.
Yep. I mean, we're about to enter the Ayatollah era. Also, in that time,
Yeah, pretty much.
I highly recommend you watch that film I linked you. My fucking God.
The Air Force refuses to bomb the facility, forcing a crisis of allegiance for commanders. Many now favor Khomeini, and on February 11th, the army declares neutrality. This seals the fate of the Shah's government as even loyal forces defect. Once we were named the Imperial Guard. Today, we accept whatever name people will give us. We have ordered the surrender of all units under our command.
Okay, but that's probably because...
Bakhtiar resigns and flees, while Khomeini takes control and dismantles martial law. He is now the de facto leader of Iran. So the Shah and his government have fallen, but Iran experiences revolutionary chaos in the following.
Statue shit. Like, Saddam's shit needed, like, a fucking local strongman and, like, a tractor to pull it down. This just crumbled in 5 seconds. Come on.
Now he's got a flare gun pointed at
it. He has a flare gun! You're right!
Dude, if he shoots that thing,
what are you gonna do? I know it's meant to be a metaphor, but what the fuck would you do if you fired that thing? Come on.
Weeks, made worse by the 300,000 weapons in circulation after the collapse of the army.
Any boots? No, they're Iranians, I suppose.
Many groups of young men self-appoint revolutionary committees. Some take up police duties, including arresting supposed counter-revolutionaries. One armed group, the Party of God, or Hezbollahis, pledged themselves to Khomeini, but he exercises only limited control. His provisional government cannot prevent revolutionary courts summarily trying and executing 68 people, including military leaders. Tension also develops with the US. In February, protesters stormed the US embassy, resulting in a brief hostage crisis.
That's that's a really quick fire way of the incredibly obscure shit. If you read about the how the embassy was taken?
Yeah, I kind of did briefly a little bit the other night. It was like a youth movement that overtook the embassy and occupied it, but I never was able to get to too much into detail of it yet.
When they realized they knew things were going bad, and every US embassy has basically a safe room and a destroy room. The destroy room just has a big furnace, and you throw
Yeah.
all the shit that you need to into the furnace. The problem was the safe room was built above the furnace.
Hmm.
So they were choking to death on their own fumes while outside the door all these screaming Iranians are banging at them.
Both sides
Oh my
quickly
God.
de-escalate, but the development
America.
concerns the US, who initially hoped to normalize relations with the new regime. Many in the US are stunned at the Shah's rapid collapse. How
we
could
believed
Iran,
all
with
their
its oil and
politics
strategic
lied.
situation between the Soviet Union and the Persian Gulf, between Europe and the Middle East, fall under the sway of a holy man out of the mists of the 13th century? How could the Shah, a monarch who commanded more tanks than the British Army, more helicopters than the United States 1st Cavalry in Vietnam, be pressured so neatly out of power?
Because no one liked him.
The answer is partly the wide inter-opposition support for Khomeini. To maintain this, he appoints moderate nationalist Mehdi Bazargan as prime minister of the new republic. In March, Khomeini orders a referendum on the question, should Iran be an Islamic republic? 98.2% answer yes. Observers note issues with voting, including color-coded ballots revealing voters' choices, but the results are largely considered legitimate. Even many moderates favor an Islamic republic and recognize the cleric's role in organizing revolution. However, Iranians disagree on how an Islamic republic should function. Moderates worry about revolutionary committees imposing strict religious morality and deteriorating international relations. Iranian-American scholar Saeed Amir Ajamand concludes. The coalition between the Shiite clerics and the westernized bourgeoisie was unstable. It rested on fraudulent silence on the part of the former and on wishful self-delusion on the part of the latter. It did not last long. Khomeini uses the divisions and the threat posed by the armed leftist groups to centralize authority. Although his regime faces some opposition, including assassinations by guerrilla groups, he maintains a stable traditionalist foundation, creates new parties, and sides with radical elements to further marginalize moderates. He also sidelines Bazargan, who wants to improve relations with the US. Events escalate again in November 1979, when the self-exiled Shah requests medical treatment in the US. Carter is reluctant, but faces pressure from Shah supporters like Henry Kissinger and David.
The greatest man who ever lived.
Oh, Kissinger.
Oh,
I knew he was going to come up eventually.
Of course he had to. You
course.
cannot have any politics post-World War II without bringing up Kissinger.
That is
I
true.
like the part where he thought it was a good idea to bomb Cambodia and Laos. That was lovely.
Very lovely indeed.
Rockefeller. When Carter finally allows the Shah temporary shelter, angry protesters again storm the US embassy in Tehran and take 52 hostages. Both sides expect a repeat of the rapidly resolved February crisis, but Khomeini hamstrings negotiations. Bazargan resigns in frustration, and Carter faces pressure to bring the hostages home.
Very young Arafat. A little bit before your time, but I was a kid. I remember him being on TV a lot. That's why when in Die Hard, the throwaway line I hear Arafat gets his suit stare from Hans Gruber, Alan Rickman's character. That actually made a lot of sense to me. Because I was like, yeah, because anytime he'd be on TV, he would always have the finest suits, and sure enough, there was a London tailor who would do it for him. And apparently it was the same tailor that did like all the top billionaires and shit.
Shit.
By other means. So in April 1980, he orders Operation Eagle Claw, a special forces rescue raid. But 3 of the 8 U.S. helicopters assigned to the mission suffer technical problems, while another crashes
Everyone always forgets that after you build like a helicopter, you have to maintain it forever. And
Yeah, you
it's
kind of have
like,
to, have a maintenance crew.
yeah, so flying those fuckers out in like the desert and shit when they haven't been used, not to mention for massive distances too, at a moment's notice, yeah, it's the same reason the Osprey crashes into places in Japan all the time. It's because no one has the parts for it. They're pieces of shit.
Plus, the Osprey literally is just a fucking death trap.
It is such... I love Laser Pig, but for some reason he is like, oh, the Osprey isn't that bad. Motherfucker, look at all those crash buildings. Now, either they intentionally hire the worst pilots for the Osprey, or there's something wrong with the Osprey. And his response back is, well, they're not well maintained. Good! Now we're getting somewhere. Why aren't they well maintained? Because they don't make the pieces anymore. The Osprey was originally designed in the fucking 70s.
Yeah. That, and also it's just damn near impossible to maintain because it's just such a convoluted piece of machinery.
There's so many moving parts that are completely unnecessary. It's a vanity project.
Fuel tanker while refueling in the desert, causing an explosion that kills 8 American servicemen. The raid is a failure.
It was my responsibility as president to launch this mission. It was my responsibility to terminate the mission when it ended. This was a decision that was shared completely by the field commander in charge of the rescue team and by the officer in charge of the overall force that was involved in the rescue effort. There is a deeper failure than that of incomplete success, and that is a failure to attempt a worthy effort, a failure to try.
Eagle Claw hardens Khomeini's resolve to keep the hostages, and it's a political disaster for Carter. His approval rating is already low, and in November 1980, he loses the election to Republican Ronald Reagan. Carter's team...
And Reagan did nothing but good things from there on out.
Nothing but greatness.
Nothing. Well,
Which, in part, the Iran-Contra shit that happened is kind of, in part, how
Panama,
Reagan got elected too.
Grenada, the first war on drugs.
Yeah.
He was going to send Thatcher an extra aircraft carrier for the Falklands War.
Oh yeah, that.
Why can't we return to
Pretty much like solidified
America?
American imperialism as we see it today.
Why can't we return to a better America? How about you tell me, motherfucker, who told the Republican Party to start focusing on race politics?
Eventually agrees to a deal with Khomeini before Reagan's inauguration. Khomeini will release the hostages in exchange for the U.S. pledging to not interfere in Iran and unfreezing Iranian assets worth $25 billion in today's value. Iran appears to make no concessions, although some claim Khomeini secretly agrees to Israel selling arms to regional rival Iraq. The deal comes into effect 20 minutes after Reagan's inauguration, freeing the hostages after 444 days. The timing has led to allegations from Iranian and US officials that Reagan covertly encouraged Khomeini to delay releasing the hostages until his presidency began. The Iranian Revolution dramatically shifts regional and global relations. Iran extends its influence across the Middle East, including by exporting Hezbollah as a militant group supporting Shia Muslim minorities in Arab states like Lebanon. The US loses a major ally in the region and looks for new allies opposed to Iranian hegemony, like Saudi Arabia and Israel. Meanwhile, anti-American rhetoric becomes a cornerstone of Khomeini's position as supreme ruler and propaganda against Iranian moderates. It's a policy that continues until today, although political analyst Suzanne Maloney notes a certain irony. By grounding its identity and legitimacy in anti-Americanism, Tehran remains just as firmly contingent upon the United States as the Shah ever was.
That's right. If America ever went true isolationist, a lot of those countries that are based mostly around fuck America would be doomed. Oh well, every one of those countries happen to be run by tin pot fuckwits. There are plenty of like Canada is very much going anti-America right now, but it's not run by a dictator. Like there are plenty of countries out there who have nothing to do with America that are doing just fine.
Doing A-okay.
Yep, almost like
If you think
more need to. Until you guys deal with the problem that is Baptist beliefs. That's what
Iran's revolution has the largest impact on its neighbors. Although Iraq's Saddam Hussein hosted Khomeini for years, this relationship of convenience soured when Iraq deported Khomeini shortly before his return to Iran. The revolution also undermines previous Iran-Iraq agreements, which resolved border disputes and barred Iran from supporting separatist Iraqi Kurds and anti-Saddam Shia movements. As Khomeini continues to suppress internal opponents throughout 1980, revolution gives way to what some call the 20th century's last total war. The Iran-Iraq War was supposed to be an easy victory, cementing Saddam Hussein's legacy as defender of the Arab world. Domestically, his Ba'ath regime ruled with an iron fist, and Saddam was preparing his son Uday to one day take over. If you want to learn more about Uday Hussein, the so-called Mad Prince of Iraq, you should check out
I'm very much pro Nebula, but I don't think I'll ever pay for any of this sort of shit. Boop. What I will do is make a pledge that we will come back here month after next, May, June, June. To actually do a part 2 of this, because I am 100% down, and hopefully you don't catch me on a very stressful, hectic day.
Yeah.
This is meant to be a lot more cooler.
Definitely with, I understand those. That's how it was for me yesterday a little bit, but it wasn't bad though. It ended up being pretty good, but I was just like, oh fuck, so much to do today, so little time.
Anything you want to promote before we're out of here?
Well, just, my streams that I do over on Ignore Husky, and so I'm actually almost to monetization now at this rate. I almost got 1,000 subs. I don't know exactly how close I am. I can actually look. It is at, oh shit, about like, I think that would be 74 left until about 1,000, and then after that it's just getting more watch hours. But yeah, they've been like a little chill on that side of things and everything, and not as popping mainly just because there has been like much ICE protest stuff and other shit lately. But
yeah,
hopefully when things start popping off over there again, things pick up.
Go sub to this guy, because he's actually there out on the front lines.
Oh yeah, there's another guy that I know of, Pretend Media, that's out there all the time too and shit. That's pretty cool as fuck.
Love to meet him.
Yeah.
All right. Well, as for me, I have rum and coke in the next hour, so I'm gonna go and get a much needed bit of food, and then I guess I will see you guys over on the Bait Hub for that. As for next time you will see this show, Coffee and Chat. That will be next month. Don't know when. Best way to find out is to go and check out the Discord, where I will put up links. Other than that, thanks so much for watching. I hope you had a fantastic time, and yeah.